What is going on, everyone? This is Miles Dompier, and welcome to the 101st episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am stoked to be joined by Mark Medina of IGN. Mark, how are you doing on this fine Saturday morning?
It is a fine Saturday morning. It is gorgeous outside. It's like 58 degrees. There's not a cloud in the sky, which is, sometimes I like clouds, but yeah, it's cool. It's very good. I'm very good. How are you, Miles?
I'm fantastic. Same. I live over in Seattle, where there's a lower chance of sun, especially this time of the year. And I woke up this morning, sun was shining in on my cheek through the window. I was like, oh, it's going to be a glorious day. I got to come on Xbox Chaturdays and talk to the one and only Mark Medina. It's a blessed thing.
Thank God there's only one.
I don't know if the world can handle more than one. But we have a lot to talk about. It's been a week. There's been a lot of big game developments, some exciting, some tragic, some comical, and we're going to be covering them all. So we're going to be diving into some major changes to Xbox Game Pass, some weird developments surrounding MultiVersus, the state of live service games, the future of day-and-date titles on console and PC, VR and its viability moving forward, a Diablo Xbox Series X bundle, does Square Enix hate Xbox, rumored details of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, and so much more. But before we get into all of that...
My camera froze.
Oh no, your camera did freeze.
What do I
do? Turn it off and turn it back on. Oh, hey!
I think I fixed it.
Hey, we're good! But first, before we dive into all of that, Mark, for the lovely people joining us live and listening on audio services, I got 3 important questions for you. Okay. Who are you? Where can people find you? And why do you love video games?
Who am I? Let's see. I'm a cat dad. That's the most important thing about me. I have a cat. And that's the only interesting thing about me.
That's it.
She makes me a better person. No, I presume you want me to say that I work at, you know what? I also had a light I didn't have on. I presume you want me to say that I work at IGN and all that fun stuff. I do work at IGN. I've been there since 2015. The first game I was ever assigned at that company was, Fallout 4. So, think about that. There's been another Fallout since then, and now Starfield's almost here. So, yeah. But yeah, so been at IGN for almost 8 years. It'll be 8 years this year. Sorry, what was your next question? That's who I am. I'm a person who works at a video game media
where people
industry.
can find you. I don't if you have anything else to plug, that's kind of the section there.
I don't. You could find me at Twitter at Mark_Medina. I'm still verified for the next, who knows how long. And after that, I'll lose my check mark and you'll have no idea which Mark Medina you're following. It could be me or it could be the sports writer who has like 50,000 more followers than
you
me,
just said there was only one Mark Medina. Okay, what happened?
Yeah. Well, there's a guy. If you go to the AI chat thing and you type "who is Mark Medina," it's like Mark Medina is a Bay Area sports writer. Blah blah blah. Now he works at IGN. What is happening? Because there's that another
trajectory.
Mark Medina.
And then the third question, which is the most important question, is why do you love gaming?
Man, why does anybody love gaming? They're fun. They're fun to play.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, I like all sorts of games, and so I want to say I love gaming because I love the gameplay of gaming. It's such a hard question to answer, but also I play a lot of cinematic story driven games, so I love the stories that games can tell. But yeah, I don't know. You watch a TV show or you watch a movie, and those things can be over pretty quickly, especially movies, right? They're over in 2 hours, and it's where most games, you can be there for dozens of hours, and so. I guess I like it because I like that you can kind of exist in a world for a long time, unless it's a walking simulator or something like that. But those are great too. One of my favorite games of all time is I forgot what it's called, Firewatch. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, video games allow you to immerse yourself in these worlds and connect with the entertainment or the art in a way that no other medium does, and I think that's why a lot of us connect with it. Is there any specific game that you can remember being the catalyst, the moment where you're like, shit, I'm all in on gaming, let's go?
The first game that I have memory playing was Super Mario World for Super Nintendo. It was at my daycare center. This is when I lived in Iowa. And I remember playing it and just being yeah, this is interesting. And then I didn't play any games for a long time. My first game console was PS2. So
Oh dang.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where, everybody has those stories of it. It's like, oh, I go to my cousin's house and I'll play a game there and I'll do all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what makes somebody a gamer. Because I have friends, I'm sure you do too, where it's like you talk to someone, they're just like, I don't like games. And so you're just like, you want to just be like, why? And they're like,
Yeah,
well, why do
it's
you
like
like
when
games?
someone
And
says
I'm
like,
well, I don't know.
I don't listen to music or I don't watch movies. It's like, what? How?
I've never heard anyone say I don't listen to music. That would be wild. I would love
I've
that.
had people and it's just like I'm taken aback.
That's so
I don't know.
interesting.
I don't know what to say. I'm just like, what goes on in your head when a song's playing? Like, I just want this turned off. Like I
just drive in silence. Like I'm on a road trip for 4 hours. It's just nothing. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really thought about that. There's got to be people out there that are just like, yeah, I'm not into music. I'm just not into it.
Yeah, and like games right now are bigger than they've ever been, which is exciting. Like my wife, she wouldn't ever call herself a gamer, quote unquote.
Sure. Yeah.
She still plays a lot of video games. She still enjoys video games. State of Decay 2. She has like 6 times the playtime. She has like 1,000 hours in State of Decay 2. So she's like not a gamer, but she'll put 1,000 hours into State of Decay 2. And I'm like, I don't know. By some people's measurements, that would kind of make you a little bit of a gamer, a little bit.
That's yeah. I mean, mine is the same. Mine works at IGN, but doesn't play a ton of games. But when she plays them, she gets into it. Like she has the platinum trophy for things like The Forest and Horizon Zero Dawn and stuff like that. But then she won't play anything for like months. So
get it out of the system, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. What I love most about games right now is that I shouldn't say everyone, most people now play games on some level. So it's just this regular part of the conversations where at one point in time it was like looked down on. It was like a toy for children exclusively, but now it's just like a part of culture and a part of just living, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Some quick housekeeping before we get into the show proper today. Xbox Chaturdays has a little Discord popping. There is a link in the description if you want to join. We do community Q&As at the end of each episode. You can drop your questions in there. You can chat. We have a bunch of fun channels, a bunch of rad people. Shout out to all the amazing people hanging out in the Xbox Chaturdays Discord. Another quick shout out that I want to touch on is Xbox Chaturdays now has some merch, baby. So if you were watching this live,
this episode's not sponsored by Dutch Bros. I just have a Dutch Bros.
It could be, though.
It could be. Dutch Bros, where are you at?
It could be, though. All right, so if you're watching the video version, I'm going to give just a quick little rundown of some of the merch. If you're listening to the audio versions, I'll drop a link in the description as well so you can check it out. But a couple of the designs I'm super stoked on. I've joked about, like, what I want to do for Xbox Chaturdays merch for a while because people have been asking for it. I'm like, well, I don't want to do just the logo on a shirt. Even though I did, because people do want that. So there is just the logo on the shirt. But I'm like, what's a fun shirt? What's a shirt that I would buy? So I made Xbox Chaturdays in death metal font. So there's an Xbox Chaturdays death metal t-shirt and design that you can get. So that one I'm super stoked on. You can check that out there. But there's a lot of other fun merch as well. But that's live. Did it.
Well, I can't read it, so you nailed it.
Exactly. I had people when I posted the design on Twitter like, I can't read it. You need to make it more clear. I'm like, no, that's the point.
It looks like a leather couch that's, from the 80s and has just been ripped to shreds.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. You're not supposed to read it. You're supposed to walk around with the street and somebody's like, yo, sick shirt, bro. What band is that? And you're like, that's an Xbox podcast. That's the goal of that shirt there. All right, member shout-outs. I want to give a huge shout-out to everyone who has become a channel member over the last couple of weeks. It's a newer thing, but there's been a ton of support. You guys are awesome. It means a lot. So I want to give a shout-out to everyone who's supporting. In the supporter tier, we got Curie Cosmos, Rick Zion, Buddy McClure, Neon Demon, Rumberto, Happy Cloud Gamer, Jacob Novick, Rachel, Sinful Sadie, TTV, Orange Rhino, Jigga J, Crytopsy, James, Shine Films, Derek Griffin Jones, V Simcoe, Anthony, Assassin, and last but certainly not least, my mom. Literally my mom. In the loyalist here, we have Tom Whiteside, John Grasula, Patrick, and Nick W. And an extra special shout out to the channel producers, Matt Valdez, Yodani Quezada, Hargeet Chani, and Mr. Joanna Dark. If you are curious on what you get, how you can support, hit the join button on the channel to get some more details on what that means. I see some beautiful burger icons, burger badges in the chat here. We do some live members only Q&As and a bunch of other stuff. Audio listeners, huge shout out to you as well. Just, we talk about the live version, we talk about the people tuning in, but there is a huge number of people who listen to the audio version. So shout out to you as well. If you are digging the show, leave a review. It helps feed that algorithm. You know the drill. Helps, boost my self-esteem at the very least. All right, Mark, let's get into the show. Show proper. First thing I want to talk about is the Diablo 4 Xbox Series X bundle. So a few weeks ago on social media, there were some rumblings, some rumors of a special edition Xbox Series X Diablo 4 console. And people were like, what's that going to look like? That's going to be epic, Diablo 4.
And now we know what it's going to look like.
And now we know exactly what it's going to look like. So if you haven't been online, it is just a bundle. It is literally just a bundle. So it's the black Xbox Series X with a copy of Diablo 4. On the plus side, I think you save $10 on Diablo 4. You can get the bundle.
That's usually how they go, right?
Yeah, you can get the bundle for $559.99 on June 5th. As we saw this month, there's been some reports about February's sales and February console sales in particular. PlayStation had a gargantuan month, like the record-breaking February, their biggest February ever. And there was a lot of marketing push with PlayStation and Hogwarts Legacy. So clearly there is some weight to these marketing deals, and that's the reason they do them, even if it is just a bundle. So do you think that with Diablo 4 destined to be a massive game, that this will give Xbox consoles a boost in June?
I don't know. It's hard. So I don't really look into like sales a ton, but if I had to guess, PlayStation and Nintendo kind of trade places every so often, right? For like which one sells the best. I'm asked because I don't actually know. If I had to guess, Hogwarts Legacy probably definitely, especially being exclusive to next gen consoles, made people have to go out there, and if you didn't have a computer, you had to go out there and you had to get a PS5 or an Xbox. So I'm sure that did have a lot to do with it because there's a lot of marketing works, right? And there are people that kind of think that like Hogwarts is a PlayStation game, even though like I played most of it on PC. But if I had to guess, not the reason PlayStation sold so well, but the reason Nintendo kind of like had to give up that top spot is because Tears of the Kingdom, we knew, a lot of people can kind of guess that there was going to be some sort of bundle there. So I wonder if that slows down sales. I don't know. I'm not a sales guy when it comes to this stuff because I'm going to be honest with you, Miles. I really don't care how these consoles sell. I have so little interest in what the top selling console was of that year because that means almost nothing to me.
Yeah, it obviously means
something
for the business, but you, as the average person, are not making money.
Me as a gamer, I own all the consoles. I work for IGN. You can see my PlayStation right there, but I promise if you look down that there is an Xbox. And that's a Switch. But yeah, that's the tower of power of consoles. But yeah, I care so little for like, I'm a PlayStation guy, so I need PlayStation to sell the most. No, I don't care at all. So yeah, I don't know. I would say Hogwarts definitely gave it a boost. Is Diablo gonna give Xbox that same boost? I don't know, because Diablo is on the older consoles, isn't it? Like it's on PS4 and Xbox One.
I believe that this one will also be a current gen only.
Okay.
Yeah, current gen and PC. So there is potential for that same boost, I think.
Yeah, so I guess there could be that. I don't know. It's weird. We live in a world right now where Diablo is already kind of being seen as like this, probably not by the average gamer, but like Twitter and stuff like that, as like this first party game. So I find it kind of interesting that it's like Microsoft is coming out and saying this is, if it were first party, it would be on Game Pass, and it's not. We're literally selling you the game. We're selling it in a bundle. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll help with their sales at all.
Some people are, still holding out hope for the timing of the deal to go through in a way that works out so Diablo does hit Game Pass.
I think it could hit Game Pass, just not at launch, not by June, right? I can't imagine that would be a thing.
The timing is, I don't know. Yeah, that timing seems tough. Like there's a possibility, but things would have to wrap so rapidly from now to ensure that deal like in the timing works out.
Mm-hmm. Something that's been drug on so long for it to suddenly be done by early June seems unlikely, but it could happen.
It could happen, exactly. I can't be the only one disappointed that we're not getting a special edition Diablo console, though, right? Like,
yeah,
the dream of what could have been now seems dead. It seems like we're not getting a cool ass Xbox Series X with a devil on it.
It seems like no. Yeah. Okay. Your chat is agreeing with me. You were wrong, Miles.
Wow. Spreading Okay. Sorry. My apologies. I don't know where I was pulling that information. I guess out of my ass about, I thought they canceled the last gen version.
I was pretty sure it was on everything. And so that does make me think that, and then, yeah, I don't know. I wonder how many people that would want to play next gen would just get the Series S version. There's no Series S bundle though, right?
Yeah, there's no Series.
Just the Series X.
Just the Series X bundle. So yeah, with it being on last gen as well, then yeah, there's. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think if it does get more Xboxes out there, because people are like, I'm ready to jump into next gen. Diablo 4 is gorgeous, which it is. And I want to be able to play it. I definitely think that is a way to go, especially since the game could end up being first party eventually, and that could mean good things for that game. So yeah, it might be a way to go.
Yeah. My only thought is if they're not doing a special edition for Diablo, do you think there's a chance they're saving that special edition for arguably their biggest game of the year, Starfield? Do you think there's
absolutely 100%? Yeah, I absolutely think that there's going to be a Starfield bundle or not like a special Starfield Xbox. Yeah, I absolutely think that, because so much rides on Starfield, dude. So much rides on this game. Like they, not only for just Bethesda, because Bethesda has just like shown it off, and Starfield was announced at the last in-person E3. Like that's
was that
2019?
2019. Yeah. Man, yeah, it's been that long since it's been officially announced.
Yeah, well, that was when they were, I want to say, because it wasn't Fallout 76, because Fallout 76 came out the year before, so I assume that's when Wastelanders was getting pushed. But then they did their big, like, because most people don't realize that E3 is a marketing, not a marketing, what do they call it? Sales type of deal. Like, it's not technically for consumers; it's for shareholders type of deal.
Yeah, it's a very like, I don't want to say commercial, but
that's was the original point of E3, and so it's kind of like they did their Starfield and their Elder Scrolls 6, kind of splash screens to kind of just be like, hey, shareholders, don't worry, we
have cool games coming. It's fine.
We're gonna talk about Fallout 76 for an hour, but like I promise you that there is really cool stuff. And yeah, so for that game to finally be coming out in 2023 is awesome, and I'm very excited. And I think a lot rides on it. Like,
and clearly with them delaying it, like, because I'll be honest, if Bethesda wasn't acquired, that Starfield would have come out at that original release date. I think they would have just pushed it out, and it probably would have gotten the same flack that Bethesda games often get with it being buggy. And I've talked about this before, but there's this vicious cycle with independent publishers, where you have to get a game out the door at a certain point, so you have money to pay for what's coming next. And like,
and Todd Howard is the one that famously said, like, and I don't know, I'm sure he regrets saying it, but he said it to our publication that like he lives by the mentality sometimes of putting something out and then doing what they can to make it better. And it's like, that is not great.
I mean, that was the Fallout 76 approach, and people,
and I was there day one Fallout 76, and I'm not fun. not great. The vanilla version of that game is not great. A lot rides on Starfield. I think Xbox knows that a lot rides on this game, so I think I think in June you're going to get that huge blowout, and I think it's going to come with a big fancy console because Bethesda's also
Yeah.
super known for their, Fallout 4 had the Pit-Boy, and then Fallout 76 had the helmet and stuff like that. They're kind of known for these like kind of outlandish like marketing type of deals. So
Yeah. I mean, and
I
there was a
fully
big
expect
pop
it.
with Halo Infinite. That special edition console was
Yeah.
rad. Had the special sound effects. So I think there is potential. I understand, like, I don't need another Series X, but I would probably
Yeah.
buy a Diablo Xbox Series X. But I also understand there's a lot of money and development and time and resources that go into a true special edition console. So really, there was no way they're going to be able to do 2 in 1 year. So I think of Diablo 4 and Starfield, it makes more sense to lean into Starfield and give it that moment, give it the special edition console, the first huge new IP from Bethesda that's exclusive on Xbox, and really just kind of like bang that drum. So yeah,
well, that and it's Series X only, or like it's next gen only. So even more of a reason.
Exactly. Push some consoles, baby. Get some consoles out the door. Next thing I want to talk about is a game that's highly anticipated, I think, in some people's eyes, and we've gotten a lot of information about it. And as we get closer towards, we'll talk about this later, but not quite E3, but the summer-ish time of games announcements.
It'll be something.
It'll be something. A lot of stuff is leaking. A lot of like announcements that were going to happen. A lot of reveals that were going to happen. They're coming out. They always do every single year. Ubisoft is most notorious. Every Assassin's Creed ever basically has been pre-leaked like a couple months ahead of its reveal. So we've gotten some details on Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. And so according to a user on Twitter, ScriptLeaks R6, we got some details about the gameplay and the setting. So it's going to revolve around a Na'vi child who's abducted by the RDA and trained to serve in taking over Pandora. And the game will feature crafting, gliding, RPG mechanics that allow you to master multiple combat styles. So it sounds like, in a lot of ways, that this is going to be Avatar Far Cry, is kind of what people are boiling these statements down to.
Avatar Ubisoft.
Does that do anything for you? Hearing that this is going to be an open world style, first person-ish Ubisoft game set in the Avatar universe. Is that something that Mark Medina is excited to dive into?
I'm gonna give the answer that most people would probably think is the opposite. The Avatar part doesn't do a ton. I saw the first Avatar when it first came out. I had never seen it since, and then I was like, people are like going crazy over Avatar 2. I might as well go watch it. And so we went all out, got the 3D glasses, did all that stuff. Have you seen Avatar 2?
No, I've seen the first Avatar, but I have not seen Way of Water.
I think we talked about this. So Way of the Water is, holy smokes, insane. Like, I expected to just go and just be like, okay, this will be pretty cool. No, that movie is insane to watch in 3D. It's unlike any 3D movie I've ever seen. That said, I still don't really care that much about Avatar. But the rest of it sounds cool because I like open world Ubisoft games. So yeah, so that's why I say I'm kind of the opposite, where some people would probably be like, open world Ubisoft game. But you know what? But I love Avatar. I'm kind of like, I love Avatar that much, but I love Far Cry. I love Assassin's Creed. I love Watch Dogs. So I'll play it because I do love Ubisoft open world games, So yeah, I'm in. Why not? I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, like when I watched the first Avatar in theaters, I remember thinking, the story's kind of whatever, but this world is beautiful. This world would make such a fantastic setting for a video game. And so that was kind of my feeling after watching the first Avatar. Is like, I'd much rather play this than watch this. So I know there was an Avatar tie-in game on Xbox 360, PS3 that, people speak fondly of. I never had a chance to play it, but I know people who really, really enjoyed that. So when I think about what this could be, I think about the world. I think how bright, vivid, lush, all the cool wildlife that's there. The idea that you're going to be able to, fly on those bird creatures that they connect their ponytails into to bond.
Bird creatures, sure.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to engage with that world. So I know some people are really burnt out on Ubisoft's formula, and I think Ubisoft does bloat their games unnecessarily in a lot of ways. But that being said, I think there still is potential for that formula to translate to a cool game. So I'm gonna wait, for the big gameplay reveal before I decide that this isn't something I'm excited about. But this is more or less in line with what I would expect from a Ubisoft licensed Avatar game, I guess, if I'm being honest.
Here's where the tough sell comes from for me. For I think what a lot of people would be. Avatar is this insane movie experience that like there's almost nothing like it, right? Like it's live action, but it's not. Like Avatar Way of the Water has mocap just so far down, and they are able to blend it with like live action stuff to the point where you're just kind of like, there really is no other movie like it, right? Like most movies that are full animation are great, and then you have full real life movies. Avatar is very unique in that sense. I don't know and that is like a lot of the like draw, right? When it comes to Avatar. So I wonder how much just lending their name to a game is going to do for them when you discover games like that really have been done before. Like, sorry, Xbox podcast, but like the only thing that's really coming to mind is like something like Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, where it's like overly lush, blown out, vibrant colors, because that's kind of just like the point of those games. It's like the water is super blue and the trees are super green and the flowers are super whatever color they're supposed to be. This like over blown out world that some people actually don't super love because of the way it looks, and that's okay. So that's where I'm kind of like, we have those worlds in video games already. So that's where I'm like, this Avatar game is lending its name to a like medium that I don't think it can blow out like it blows out the movie medium, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
That does make sense. I'm glad you brought up Horizon, because Horizon in a lot of ways is Avatar, but with robot dinosaurs instead of the blue navies or navies or however you say it. But I agree. We've had a lot of lush, vibrant worlds in the open world space. Horizon, Breath of the Wild. So Avatar is going to have an uphill battle to sell people, because especially if you use social media as any indication, a lot of the core gamer sphere has shown that they're not interested in like when Avatar was coming out, you saw so many people say, who cares? And sure enough, like the average person cares, because that movie did some numbers. James Cameron,
never doubt Cameron, man.
As cocky and annoying as he is in interviews sometimes, like the man can cook, all right? So he cooked up something that people clearly wanted to go see because it made so much money. But that being said,
third best,
I think it has breached
below Titanic and Endgame.
Yeah, so he's got two of the top three. But that being said, I agree. I think it's going to be a harder sell to convince a gaming audience that this is an experience unlike anything else that's out there. Because Ubisoft games, if it is very formulaic in the Ubisoft world, like we already have a lot of that. So what's this game going to do? And I think the gameplay reveal is going to be that catalyst as to like, are these ideas interesting enough to exist in a world where we have Horizon, where we have a new Zelda right around the corner? Like, is it going to pull people away from those experiences?
Yeah, well, and even something to bring it, like what we're hoping is like something like Fable will probably be very similar to something like that. This open world fantasy, super vibrant kind of thing. And I it's tough because with like I said, with Avatar, I that's probably not a movie I probably would have went and watched if it weren't for the fact that Twitter was just like, I just got done watching Avatar and my mind is blown. I was
rocked my son. I know. I saw so many people were like, went in with zero expectations. They're like, all right, fine, I'll go check it out.
Yeah,
and they're like,
I was like, you know what? I got to see this for myself, and I'm glad I did. We walked out, and my wife was like, "So what'd you think?" And I was like, "Dude, that was awesome." And she's like, "Okay, I loved it, and I wasn't sure where you were with it." And I was like, "No, I was blown away." But again, just like the first Avatar, like the story is it's a story.
I couldn't tell you the plot of the first one, and I've seen it twice. So once in theaters, once at home. I could not tell you the plot of that movie.
I would highly encourage you to watch the second. You missed the theater boat, though I'm sure it'll be back eventually. But just graphically, man, that movie is nuts. It is nuts to watch. If you have a nice TV at home and you can turn all the lights off and just get into it, I'm sure you'd still love it.
Be washed with the color.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
All right, Mark. Another weird development this week is surrounding the free-to-play platform fighter from WB, MultiVersus, which has been in open beta for a little while now. It had an alpha period, and then it launched in open beta. You could buy some founders passes, and it's on season 3, I believe, or was getting ready to launch its second season. It's had some weird kind of like Halo Infinite moments where it's had to delay season rollouts, but it's had seasons going for months and months. And a lot of us assumed that the open beta would roll straight into the 1.0 full version release of the game. But the MultiVersus team took to Twitter this week and social media and basically said, hey, the open beta period is coming to an end on June 25th. And after that, the game will be offline. The game will not be playable. The game will not be accessible until we relaunch the game sometime in 2024. So there's a possibility, a real possibility where MultiVersus is unplayable for a year. And I don't know that we've ever had an open beta period go a full year before the launch. We've had some, closed betas. We've had other moments where the beta does take longer, but for an open beta, a beta that they have charged for, you could buy season passes and character skins.
Well, and I'm not a fighting game guy. If you'd asked me, I would assume the game was out.
Yeah. Like as soon as you start selling stuff in the store, it seems the average person assumes that, okay, this is here to stay. And they have come out and said that, everything that you've bought, everything you've unlocked will carry over into the new version, but you won't be able to play the game. So how are you feeling about this? When you saw this break, like what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I've never played it. I'm not like a fighting game person, but like that is so weird. So what I do love Fortnite. I play a lot of Fortnite, and that game was in beta for a long time as well. People probably don't really remember that because they handled it in a way that seems more in line with how other things are handled, which was Fortnite was in beta for a long, long time, and then eventually they got to a point
Mark, I'm sorry. Hold on. Your face is stuck in a really funny position.
In a really silly position.
There we go.
Look, that's me just you're like, hey Mark, what do you think of this MultiVersus thing? And I'm just like speechless. But yeah, eventually Fortnite was just like, cool, we're not in beta anymore. The game's out. And I don't know the timeline of when that was because I only started playing Fortnite like a couple years ago. But like Minecraft was the same. Minecraft was in beta for like ever. And then eventually it just kind of came out. And so I think it would be super weird if Fortnite was a game that people were dumping money into, the Battle Royale version. And then all of a sudden, if they were just like, hey, we're going to go offline now for a year. I absolutely think it's because there's a thing with this game, right? Where like the player count like dropped significantly.
It was the biggest fighting game launch pretty much ever. Which makes this this whole situation especially weird. The MultiVersus launch just destroyed any other fighting game in terms of just numbers and engagement and like traffic. When I was working for Windows Central, we had a ton of stuff, and some of our number one article on the entire website was the MultiVersus tier list that I did for like a month. It was just that game was absolutely massive, but like you said, people have pointed out that the player count has dramatically fallen off a cliff in the last month or two.
Yeah, so it makes me think that they just like weren't, that was like a thing, right, where they weren't really able to like keep up with content, and so people get bored and they stop playing, and they stop having a reason to play. And it makes me think that they were like, okay, we're never going to be able to catch back up. Like we're never going to be able to, we can try to put out a new piece of content maybe like next month or whatever, but we're never going to be able to keep up with this. So what we need to do is we need to bank content for like a year, so that way we can, because they're a smaller team, so that way we can then have a better like release cadence. And the only way to do that is without killing our game by having it just be existing for a year with no updates, is we're gonna have to take it down. We're gonna have to relaunch, which is like, that's wild.
It's probably a really hard decision to make. And I know people are upset, and we'll talk about the financial component of it here, but MultiVersus was one of my most played games last year. I loved MultiVersus. I'm a big platform fighting fan. I thought this was the best thing that we've had outside of Smash Bros. In that space. And it was free to play. It was accessible, had a great cast of characters. you mentioned that the team is small, and the team is very
Yeah.
small. Season 1's rollout was ridiculous. One of the main reasons I think the game like stayed as big as it did for that first month or two was because I think they put out 5 characters in season 1. And I remember thinking to myself, like, can they maintain this? Can they sustain this cadence? Because this is out of control. Like a character every 2 weeks. No game does that. Like you can't do that forever. And clearly, as we've gone months already, like it's been 3 months, I think, without a new character. Like clearly they are struggling to deliver on that cadence. And I hope this means a better state for the game. And I totally agree that I think this is to ensure that when they relaunch, they have a better system for, all right, content's going to come at this pace. We have X number of characters done, so we can ensure. Where I think this time around, they said, all right, we have these characters done. Let's just put out a new character every 2 weeks. And then they ran out of characters. Like, damn, okay, well, we don't have anything else coming in a reasonable time frame. So it sucks. Like, I know they charged $100 for a Founders Edition, which guaranteed you like 3 battle passes, or I think maybe even 5 battle passes, if I remember right. There haven't even been 5 passes released. So you have unused money that you've spent on this battle pass or this Founders Pack. Do you think it's fair to take it down? I see someone in the chat, Huffy Bear, mentions that if you download this before mid-April, they are taking the game off the stores in mid-April, so you won't even be able to download it. But if you still have it downloaded, you can play the game locally. So if you still have friends and you still want to play it locally, you still can. But after mid-April, you won't even be able to download the client anymore. Do you think that's, I guess, fair? I don't know if fair is like a fair question, but do you think that's fair?
Here's what's weird about video games in 2023 is you just don't own anything anymore, right? And that's something that unfortunately I think a lot of people are going to have to just start getting used to when it comes to live service games. It's like you just, because what's the Knockout City, like that
Knockout
game is
City?
just done.
Rumbleverse?
That game's just over. So yeah, Rumbleverse, like those games are they're just over now, right? Like they're not coming back. And so you're just kind of like, I don't know, you kind of have to just go into these ideas where you're like, okay, I've spent not very much money on like Fortnite. I buy like the battle pass and stuff like that. I have spent more money on Overwatch just because the skins, I can't not get them. They're great. But I'm very much aware that if all of a sudden Overwatch 2 was, if they were just like, it's done and like we're not doing Overwatch anymore, kind of like with like Heroes of the Storm, whatever, then I take a picture of all my skins and I save them somewhere. But I knew that those don't belong to me, and that's just kind of how it is. That's just kind of how it's going to keep being as long as like games are going to be live service, right? Like it's kind of tragic. Like we kind of almost had it a while back, right, when we thought like Mirror's Edge was going away, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it can even bleed into like single player games too, where it's like, we're just not going to sell this game anymore. Anybody that would know me knows that I'm like an Anthem apologist. I really love that game. That game's just not going to exist one day. It still does somehow, but eventually it's just not going to exist. And so it's kind of that unfortunate reality that we all need to live with, I guess, that you just don't own anything unless it's a game you can physically buy that doesn't fully rely on like an online always connection. You know that you're just, and this is an example of it. I think what's harder about this one is the fact that it is going to come back. I think people can kind of stomach being like, all right, Knockout City, yeah, we kind of saw the writing on the walls that this game was eventually going to go, right? Where it's like this game, they're like, oh, we're shutting down, but we'll be back. That almost stings more. You would think it would sting less, but for some reason it stings more.
Yeah, I think that's like, the weirdest thing.
All those purchases will go over. But this thing you just don't have anymore for a year.
You're basically saying like, I gave you this money, and you're gonna hold my money hostage for a year, and then you can have it back. Once we're ready to relaunch it, then you can have your purchases back. But until then, sorry.
Yeah, as far as the like, I want to speak like as a content creator. So I work at IGN and I own a show called Devs React to Speedruns, where we show developer speedruns of their games. And that show used to be weekly. It was weekly for like 2 years. And eventually it just became so like tough. Like I was running out of ideas for episodes to do. And so the best thing I could have ever done was I was basically just like, I'm not making any episodes for like, I don't remember how long it was. It was like 4 months. I was like, I'm not making any more episodes. But I didn't slow down production. I just stopped releasing the episodes. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to keep producing as many episodes as I can, but I no longer have that stress of doing it weekly, because if I can't get an episode together, it's cool. I have this bank of episodes, and I do think that's probably the route they're going to go on. Is like, if they're going to keep creating content, but if something happens where they're like, we don't have anything this month, and it's like, oh, it's cool. We took that year off and we have all this bank stuff. Throw this character out and we'll be good.
Yeah, and that's, again, I see people laughing online and saying like, dead game, lol, no one plays it anymore. And like, for me, like, I love the game. I really, really love the game. I want to see the game succeed. And so while this decision is a bummer, and I agree that it is a very weird, strange situation that we haven't seen before, I really do hope that that means a better state for the game and the people working on the game. Because, you know, like Tony, who's the figure in the face, like, they just won like Fighting Game of the Year at the Game Awards. So imagine the whiplash of that, and then being like, we have to take the game offline for a year. It's a rough. It's got to be a rough situation for them.
Well, and I have seen a lot of defense of it, which is good. I'm not, you know, again, it is what it is. But it's like, well, people have been saying, well, you know, it was a beta, and it's like, you know, this was always going to happen. And to answer one of the questions you started with, I absolutely do not think this was going to happen. I do not think that they want to do this. I don't think that they planned on doing this. I think they just fell behind, and they came to that decision that they're like, all right, we have to take it down so we can catch back up, because because if not, the game's going to die, because the player base is just dwindling at this point. So
yeah, I think as soon as you start charging money, you don't really get to say like, oh, this is just a beta, sorry, it can go away whenever. I think I don't have the data in front of me right now, but this is the first time that I can ever remember a beta that's had paid access, paid content, not rolling straight into the 1.0 launch. I can't think of another time that's ever happened.
Right. Well, and I'm thinking of some of the more recent betas that people have played, which is, you know, Dark and Darker and Diablo 2 and stuff like, or Diablo 4. And it's like, right, but we knew those were going away. Like, we knew that those were
this exactly.
Like this seemed like it was out. So it's nuts that it's just gone now.
Which, it's a bummer, and it ties into our next conversation here about live service, which we've kind of touched on. But before I do that, I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who's tuning in live. If you are enjoying the show, hit that like button, share it out. If you are new to the show, we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So Stella Chung wrote an excellent article this week on IGN.
I know her.
Yeah, she's pretty rad.
I've met her once.
I have talked with her on Unlocked once and on Twitter on several occasions, but that's the extent. But in light of all of this MultiVersus news, she wrote an article basically talking about live service game, the problem, being fatigued, being tired, being frustrated with live service games. And we've seen so much of it in recent years. We've seen Marvel's Avengers, we've seen Rumbleverse, we've seen Knockout City, we've seen games like Halo Infinite struggle to reach a cadence that keep people happy. MultiVersus is just the latest example. So my big question here, a big question for the show, you and the audience, is, are live service games even sustainable as they currently stand? Is this, like, we're seeing so many people struggle to meet expectations, deliver compelling content consistently. Is this formula something that can be sustainable moving forward?
I think some are, obviously, right? Like, Destiny has not necessarily stumbled since it released in 2014. Like, that game has seen player counts go up and down, right? And like, I know a lot of people aren't loving the most recent expansion, but for the most part, like, it has made Bungie extremely successful for nearly a decade now. So, you know, Blizzard has Overwatch, and that game also kind of stumbling here and there, but like, you know, and then you have things like Fortnite and stuff. But I also know that I'm listing, you know, 5 games versus the like 100 probably that try to exist, that come and go, right? Is it sustainable? I think if you get that hook in and you can keep up with the content, right? Like people are really loving things like Marvel Snap right now, and it's like, how long is that going to be a thing for? I don't know. But like they found something to like get people in there. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
It
Live
is.
service games are this weird like comfort game for me, right? Like I don't play very many. Again, I play Fortnite and Overwatch. And that's basically it. And the only reason I ever play those games, I don't play them by myself. I play them with my gaming group that meets up once every week or two, right? And it's like, hey, what do you guys want to play tonight? You guys want to play Fortnite? You guys want to play Overwatch? And the reason we love those games is because it's just like you can just hop on, you can just play, and then you're just done. But I don't play games like Destiny and stuff like that very often. So it's like it's really hard to know what keeps people playing those games. But like Destiny, people have thousands and thousands of hours in that game.
Yep, I
I don't
have
know how they do it.
several of my best buddies, like in my tight gaming circle. Like my friends that we play every single night. A few of them have 3,000 hours in Destiny over the last like decade that's been going. So there are games that have been successful. Sea of Thieves is another great example of a game that like
Mhm.
had the rough launch where people are like, they're not
Yeah.
giving me enough content. And now you look at the state of the game and they have figured it out. They have seasons, they have like not bi-weekly, they have adventures that are regular, similar to Destiny. So there are formulas that work and there are ways to deliver that. But like you said, there are some shining examples and a sea of people trying it. And again, you look at Fortnite from a cynical perspective and you say, oh damn, like that's a lot of money. That's a lot of potential
Yeah.
money to bring in. But then a lot of these teams, I don't think, are looking at the reality of what goes into supporting that and sustaining that. The Fortnite team is gargantuan. The Fortnite
Right.
team compared to the MultiVersus team is
Mhm.
astronomically bigger.
Well,
And
and one that I actually keep forgetting that I did play for a long time was Genshin Impact. And that game is
oh
just like
yeah,
you can't
that game is
you
massive.
if you don't play that game for an hour, you're behind, right? Because it's just like that game. I think I played it and I felt like I was really good. I felt like I was caught up, and then I didn't play it for like a week, and it was like this huge expansion came out. I'm like, I can't keep up with this. But that's another company that, and it's like, but how do they do it, right? That's how they do it. Is Hoyoverse? My email is every day. We're releasing this new character. We're releasing this whole new region, this whole new storyline. And that's how they keep people going with a game. Like, why does my camera keep messing up? I need to just start watching just myself, so
Just
that way I
stare
can know when
directly
that
into your
happens.
own eyes. No, I agree. It's one of those things where you got to balance ongoing content for players, and then you also have to find this delicate balance of supporting the game financially and also respecting the investments of players. I think a big
Yeah.
problem in the multiverses community is a lot of people, not only were they frustrated with the lack of content, they were frustrated because the battle pass felt like such a grind. And so you had to pay for the battle
Mm.
pass, and then you had to play for hours every single day to feel rewarded for playing. Halo Infinite at launch was the
I was
same
gonna say
way.
that was a Halo thing, right?
Yeah,
Where it was like to get to the end of the battle pass, it was like you had to play like I don't know. So I don't want to say it like 1,000 hours, something crazy. Like you had to play a lot of that game
it
to
was a
get through it.
lot. Like I think when I completed the first battle pass in season 1, I think I had 3 or 4 days of playtime to finish the battle pass.
Mhm.
So it's a huge investment of time. And again, like one of my least favorite things in the current state of gaming is paying for the privilege to grind. I think that's such a scummy decision that a lot of these live service games fall into because they need the engagement metrics. They need to point to
Yeah.
an Excel spreadsheet and a graph and say X number of people are playing X number of hours every single day. And that's like, well, that's because you're manipulating them to feel that they have to play that to feel rewarded for their experience. But I understand there's the business metrics of using that to justify more investment and more
Mhm.
resources. And there's a lot of boring business reality that goes into that. And that's something like, as a player, like a lot of players don't care about that, but you really have
Mhm.
to find that balance. And I was really grateful to have an opportunity to sit down and talk with Joe Neat about that. The exact topic is like, how do you decide what you charge someone? Like, is it an arbitrary
Yeah.
number? Like, why are things more expensive than others? Why aren't things just cheaper across the board? And so we got to sit down and really talk about the reality of investing in a live service game. And one nice note that he said is like, our mantra is we never want anyone to spend money and feel bad about that. So I think they've managed to find a good balance and have expensive cosmetics, which people want to buy. And then having, so when you buy the Battle Pass in Sea of Thieves, you can finish it in probably a week or two. Like you can finish it in a few long sessions, which I really appreciate because I don't want to have to play every single day if I've already paid. So it's a tough balance. And I understand why people are getting fatigued of live service games. And if future teams are going to jump in the space, they're really going to have to consider those things. So my final question on this topic is, what do you want to see from the future of live service games? Like, what's the perfect Mark Medina live service game look like moving forward?
Man, that's tough. I want to mention something you said where you spend money and never feel bad about it. I don't feel bad about my Overwatch skins. It's Twitter that makes me feel bad about it. They tell me, Mark, what are you doing with
You're
your
part
life?
of the problem, Mark. You did this.
Mark, you don't need Ghost Diva for $20. And I'm like, but I have her, and my life is happier now.
Yeah. Can you put a price on that? All right.
I don't know. It's really hard to say. I don't know if there is a perfect one, right? Because every live service game that I've gotten into kind of does follow that same model, but it does eventually just come down to boredom for me, right? Like I did play a lot of Genshin Impact when it kind of first launched and it was still early. Like I thought that was like a totally I was a big apologist for that game because that game is very gacha and you do eventually hit a point where you're like, man, it gets very grindy and you do have to start spending money. And I'm like, right, but there's like 60 hours of gameplay before you get to that point. That's a lot of video game to play still. But eventually I got bored. Same with Overwatch, same with Fortnite. Like every day I was in those. And then I just kind of just eventually drop off, right? You just get boredom. So I don't really know if there is a perfect one.
It's tough because
I need them to show me, right? And then I'll play and then I'll love it and then I'll move on. Like that's kind of, I know that's not what they want. They want me to play their game forever, but that's just not who I am,
Exactly.
And I know PlayStation's going through a thing where they want to have like 10 live service games. And I'm like, I mean, we'll see, bro, because I don't know.
Maybe start with like 2 really good ones.
Right. Yeah.
But I think they're scared because there's so much that goes into doing a live service game. And like you said, there's all these examples of them not hitting. So maybe they're looking at it like if we put all of our eggs into like one basket and aim for one, because I think The Last of Us Factions right now probably has the best chance of being like a real hit, like a legitimate big hit. There's a lot of interest because of the show. The game's been selling really well. The game's just a big IP in general. And so if you can do like a Escape from Tarkov like style open world, not quite battle royale experience in The Last of Us, that has potential to keep people engaged. But I wonder if they're like, hey, we need 10 because we need, we know that if we do 10, like 2 could hit. But if we only do 2, neither could hit.
I think like Haven's working on one, and I don't know. I don't love this world of like that many live service games though. Like, right? Like that's terrifying. I kind of like my first party studios on both sides making games that like can be really just really good experiences that I am done with. I don't want to play a game forever. I know PlayStation sometimes gets that criticism where it's like you play you're one and done. I'm like, right. That's what I want. There's too many games for me to want. I played God of War Ragnarok and then I'm going to play another game. I don't want to play the same game forever. There's those 2 streamers, Shroud and Dr. Disrespect, right? They're both kind of doing this thing right now where they're making their own game. And in their trailers, I don't know what Dr. Disrespect is, but Shroud's is like Project Asteroid. It's like, right? And basically what they're doing is they are 2 streamers that are really good at like shooters and things like Escape from Tarkov and just battle royale games, and their whole thing is like, I want to make a game that I want to play for the rest of my life. And I'm like, that sounds awful.
That's a big that's a tall order.
That's for one, that's like, I don't think that exists. And for 2, like, I don't know, that just doesn't sound fun to me to be like, I'm Shroud, and I'm gonna make the perfect battle royale game that I want to play forever. So that way, I'm not at the mercy of PUBG and Fortnite and all these other games. And it's like that doesn't sound fun to me.
It's I want both to exist because, like you said,
Sure.
I do have my live service comfort games, the ones I go to play consistently, like
Mhm.
Pokemon Unite. Like that was like the game when, for a long time, my friends would get in a. Ironically, we get into Xbox party and say, "What are we gonna play?" And like, let's play Pokemon Unite. And it was just this game we could go on, play every single night, and have a good time. And there was no like
Yeah.
overthinking it. That being said, I do want standalone experiences that I can play and be done with. And what I hate most is when I love the idea of a game, I love the world that they've built, but then I don't connect with the hook. I don't connect with the live
Yeah.
service component of it. And I look at the game and I say, I want to like this, I want to play this, but I don't want to make it feel like a job. I only have so much time to play a game, and if I can't just jump into this game and play for an hour or two and feel good about it, I'm not going to keep playing it. No matter how much, no matter, what the end game loop looks like, or, dude, just stick with it for 50 hours and then it pays off. I'm like, there's too many games asking me to do that at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's
I
the
want
problem.
to point out something someone said in your chat, which is like, I want to eat the same meal for the rest of your life. And it's like, exactly, right? I
Yeah.
love pizza, right? But like, do I want to eat pizza forever? No. Like,
No.
I could probably do it for like maybe a couple days. But I also want to say that like, it's not even the live service part that even really gets me. The reason I play Overwatch and Fortnite is because those games don't have actual progression. So it's the perfect style of game to be able to jump in with my friends. We used to play a lot of Halo Infinite, right? Halo Infinite multiplayer doesn't have actual progression.
Yeah,
Right?
there's no stats or armor you need to
If
worry
someone
about.
played for 1,000 hours and someone played for 1 hour, you're dropped into that same map. That person may have really cool skins, but for the most part, you're dropped into Fortnite with nothing. You pick up the gun. Everyone's picking up the same gun. Same with Overwatch. No one's more powerful than the other just because I played more. And that's more the draw for me, because we used to play
Mhm.
games like Fallout 76 or just other online games. And for example, like one, I'll just say Fallout 76 is like, I would play and I would be, maybe 20 hours into the game, 30 hours into the game. And then my friend would jump on and I'd be like, cool, I'll join your world and we'll do your quests. The quests I've already done. And yay, okay,
Yeah,
that
that's
actually doesn't sound that fun. And like, I'm like, even though like it kind of brings the scale down, I'm like super overpowered and stuff like that. And even with a game like Diablo, it'll be the same, right? My friends jumped in on the last night of the beta and they're like, let's play together. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to start a new character because you can't play until you get past the prologue. And I was like, so I'm just going to play as my like level 25 necromancer. And it scales where the enemies to me were like level 25, but to them they were like level 1. But I'm like, but I'm also just like doing these same quests I've already done. And that's where something like Overwatch and Fortnite kind of has that draw. It's not even the live servicey part. It's the lack of progression that everybody who only plays games together once every week or two can just be on the same playing field.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
have
draw.
we were talking about my buddies who love Destiny, and like I've played
Mhm.
Destiny. I have a few days of playtime in Destiny, so I did the original campaign, had a good time, and moved on. They play and they like because we play games together. Colin, that's our thing. Is
Mhm.
I'm big on co-op. I'm big on multiplayer, so we play a lot of stuff together. So they've wanted me to play Destiny. I'm like, man, I'm just too out of the loop. It's too hard to get caught up. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
buy it. For one, I've talked about this before, but I think Destiny has one of the worst monetization models available. It's an MMO in all the worst ways. You have to pay for the expansions. You got to pay for the battle passes. You got to pay for exclusive dungeons. The monetization's gross in Destiny
Okay.
in a lot of ways. So I was like, I'm not buying it. I don't like it. I'm not supporting it. Like, all right, we'll buy you. So they bought me all of the DLC. They're like, okay, fine. And so they bought me all of the DLC.
Now you gotta play.
And then so I had to play. And so I dove in, and it was so jarring and overwhelming
Yeah.
to be out of the loop of Destiny for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then go back in. And like all of the original content's gone. So even if I wanted to be caught up on the story, I can't.
Nope.
And so we're going through cutscenes. I'm like, who's this? Who's this?
Yeah.
And they're like, hold on, give me 20 minutes. I'll explain to you what's going on
Oh
with
my
this
gosh.
character. I'm like, this kind of sucks. So I agree. There needs to be some common ground really for these types of games to thrive. And I understand
Mhm.
People want to dive in, just really grind it to a pulp. Like, that's what I'm worried about Diablo. Diablo 3, I loved it because it was very co-op centric. We could play through the experience together. We could experience everything together. I know one of my buddies is going to grind to level 50 while I'm working one day, and then I'm going to jump on and be like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, we've already done all this? Like, okay, yeah. let's do that. But it's kind of the nature of these MMOs and live service style games is you got to cater to both. You got to cater to the people who want to play in co-op, and then you got to cater to the people who just want to grind alone.
Yep, absolutely.
Couple quick changes to Game Pass I just briefly want to touch on here. First, RIP to the $1 Game Pass promotion. You know, it was a legacy thing that was going on and off for a while. You could get your first month of Xbox Game Pass for $1. It looked sexy on marketing. It was juicy. It was a thing that people memed on. You had the people who supported Game Pass who would use it and say, yeah, you can play all these games for $1. And then you had the people on the other side saying, oh yeah, they're only charging $1 because nobody wants Xbox Game Pass. But pour one out. Xbox has officially said that deal for the time being is gone, but they are working on new promotional ways to bring people into Xbox Game Pass. Another thing is that people have kind of falsely assumed that Xbox Game Pass Family Plan, which has been rumored for a long time, is being tested in current markets, is rolling out in the US. There was a screenshot making the rounds of $39.95 for Xbox Game Pass Family Plan, and someone said that was in the US. That was somebody from the US who jumped to New Zealand time to play a game early, and the conversion rate was off. So it hasn't launched in the US. We don't know what the pricing will be, but it sounds like it's probably going to be about $25, maybe upwards of $30 a month for the Xbox Game Pass Family Plan if we're using the conversion rates.
Okay.
Mark.
Yeah, that's me.
Do you think we look at family plans, we look at, the value of Xbox Game Pass. Do you think that they are banking on that being like a big driver for Xbox Game Pass? They've seen growth. The service is successful, but I think, it's not growing as rapidly as they would hope. Do you think that's a way that they're really banking, especially on the US, for it to be a big kind of boost to that subscription service?
Maybe. I'm not their target marketing when it comes to that stuff. So there's two things so one is Game Pass. I pay for it for myself, and then my wife pays for hers. Am I going to take the time to kind of look into like, would it be cheaper for us to get a fan? Maybe. I don't know. I'm real busy doing nothing sometimes. So like,
there's only two people. It's probably not.
Yeah. That takes a lot of my time, doing nothing. And like another one is like we both have Apple Music, which is like $10 a month, but apparently there's like a family plan where we could be paying like $15. I never looked into it. We just bought $10 a month.
I can't be bothered. Like,
I'm like,
oh, did we lose Mark entirely now? Oh, wait, no, there he is. No, can't hear you. Uh-oh. Boom. I'll stall for time. Don't worry, we're good. We're good. Yeah, so the Xbox Game Pass Family Plan right now, it basically gives 5 users. Oh, I can hear myself now. Here we go. It basically gives 5 users the perks of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And yeah, if it is $25 in the US, I have 5 friends. I have 5 friends dialed in, ready to go, ready to drop the money. Like, I have my list of 5 friends, and if we can really get Xbox Game Pass for 5 people for $25 a month, yeah, we're gonna take advantage of that deal for sure. Like, we're gonna set up a little shared Venmo account. We're gonna have me as Papa Miles of the family throwing down the money each month, and then every 3 months, I'm gonna hit up my friends and say, "All right, pay up, hit me with."
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, we did it.
We good.
I hate Discord.
Discord is the when it works, it works, and when it doesn't, oh boy, it doesn't.
Yeah, okay, I'm back. I don't even know what happened. It was just like, okay,
I just said, okay, well, you're back, you're good. Basically, I was saying that, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Family Plan gives 5 people access to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So for you and a lot of people, that doesn't matter. Like, a lot of people, like, and especially listening here, probably, I'm sure some of you do have a family of 5, but when I'm looking at it, I'm saying, I got 5 friends, and we play on Xbox. So you know what we're going to do is Papa Miles is going to set up the family plan. And if it is $25 a month for 5 people, I'm going to get 5 people on board. And I'm going to say every 3 months, you're going to Venmo me $15. All right. And we're going to do this thing.
I don't even know 5 people. So yeah, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. But yeah, I think there is potential for it to be, because right now Xbox Game Pass, from the optics of just the average person, it is this value driver. And if you are like a family and you're looking at that and saying, oh, well, we can get everybody in the family on Xbox for $25 a month, like that's not bad. Like I don't want to pay $75 $75 every time you want a new game. Here you go. You're on Game Pass. Sorry, deal with it, little Johnny. Like this is cheaper for us. So I think there is some potential for it to drive stuff there for just the average family who's looking, trying to play games on a budget.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely think it's for somebody. It's not something that sparks Mark Medina's interest, but I'm sure some people will see the value there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Mark. Another topic that has kind of sparked a lot of debate, a lot of passionate takes this week online is Square Enix has announced that some of their games that have been previously announced are coming to more platforms, which is always exciting. I love the idea of people playing games that they're excited about, wherever they want to play it. But if you're an Xbox, if you're an Xbox fan, you don't get to play it where you want to play it.
If you're an Xbox fan, it means nothing to you.
Sorry. Yeah. Square Enix has announced more games that are, again, I've talked about this ad nauseum, and I'm kind of the poster child in some ways of this all but it's of games coming to every single console but Xbox. So Live Alive announced, I love that game. One of my games of the year last year. I gave it a 9 out of 10 when I reviewed it. Absolutely loved it. That's coming to PS4, PS5, and PC. And it'll be on Switch, PlayStation, PC, not Xbox. Legend of Mana, one of my favorite games of all time. Now,
wait, does that make it exclusive? I don't know the rules anymore.
Yeah, that's ethereal. We'll talk about that later on. But yeah, that Legend of Mana. They've rubbed salt in my wound with that one. Because I bought it. Like I'm not gonna. I own all the consoles. I bought it. I own Legend of Mana on PC, Switch, and PlayStation. But to do Xbox fans even dirtier, they brought Legend of Mana to mobile. They brought Legend of Mana to mobile before they brought it to Xbox.
But Live Alive will come to mobile.
just to really salt the wound. So Xbox fans are upset. They're bothered.
Yeah. Rightfully so.
And it's kind of sparked rekindled this debate and this question for some publishers, Square being a prime example of, does Square just hate Xbox? Does Square have no interest whatsoever in doing business with Xbox? So I have some insights to share, but I'm curious to get your read on this trend that we're seeing with certain publishers, especially Japanese ones who just don't bother doing Xbox versions.
Yeah, someone said Octopath Traveler was a punch to the gut. Live Alive was a kick to the face.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, we'll give you the first Octopath. 2, no. If you love the first one, sorry, buy it somewhere else.
I mean, I don't know. Like Square Enix they are a huge company, right? In Japan, they are a publisher of games that most people wouldn't even know, right? Like, they used to publish Call of Duty. I don't think they do anymore, but they, that was a fairly recent thing. They have cafes. Square Enix more or less you have to assume that they know business, right?
Yeah.
And so
you would think they've been around for a hot minute. All right. They,
Yeah. And so I want to say, and yeah, there is the whole like NFT thing. I'm reading your chat now. And so I want to respond to something somebody said, which is Square Enix is afraid of money. I don't think they are. I don't. Square Enix wants all of the money, right?
They want easy money. I think is the Square Enix mantra right now is like they are so risk averse that unless it's guaranteed to be an absolute bop, that is getting zero marketing dollars and zero porting budget outside of guaranteed success metrics.
Yeah, and so stuff like Final Fantasy 16, right? Like that is a marketing deal that Sony has that you're just kind of like, I do think that game would absolutely sell on Xbox, right? Same with Final Fantasy 14. Like it's wild that game's not on Xbox.
And they've talked. That's a weird saga because they've talked about Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox for like a decade. Like they're they have talked about it, and there's all these rumors and industry rumblings that Xbox was the problem because they were demanding like not crossplay or something. Once upon a time, this was this has been going on for a decade. So, and I can't confirm that this is the reality, but I've had people tell me that it's because that originally Xbox was like, oh well, we want just the like we want an Xbox version without crossplay kind of thing. So
Right.
I don't know. That's not the reality now, as we know, because they're very open to
Yeah.
crossplay.
So I think Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy, Remake and Rebirth and Crisis Core, Crisis Core might have come to Xbox. I can't remember. Was that in everything but as well?
Yes, no, again, like it's very inconsistent. So Crisis Core, Star Ocean, Diofield Chronicles, those were all on Xbox.
Those are all on Xbox. That's what I thought. Okay. I do think Final Fantasy 16, 14, and 7 Remake would sell. But yeah, Square, so that's a little strange. That's marketing deals that PlayStation just has down pat. Now, when it comes to something like Live Alive, I'm wondering how much that game's even going to sell on PlayStation. And I think that they probably look at it as, is this going to sell gangbusters on PlayStation? Well, there's more PlayStations out there. PlayStation is more prevalent in Japan. Live Alive used to be a Japanese only game, right? It's only very recently come to the West. So we do think that there is a market there. Xbox not as prevalent. I'm sure it was a very easy decision to be like, yeah, it's really just not worth our time to put that game on Xbox. Well, like, we're losing nothing by, like, I think that they're losing almost nothing by not putting that game on Xbox. And Live Alive specifically.
I want to be like very careful and considerate how I address this conversation, because when Legend of Mana skipped Xbox, that, like, I joke about that being the catalyst for me, like, going down this rabbit hole. So I've reached out to a lot of publishers. I've reached out to a lot of people who work with publishers. I've reached out to a lot of developers. NDAs will not allow me to have any sort of, like, on record information here. But it sounds like that the business reality is a deciding factor in a lot of these situations. So there are examples, prime examples, where stuff like Final Fantasy, obviously, PlayStation is spending a lot of money to make sure that that never comes to Xbox. There's zero doubt about that when it comes to Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. They are spending lots of millions, upwards of millions of dollars to make sure that that never comes to Xbox, or doesn't, or by the time it comes to Xbox, its sales won't even matter at all. And then maybe, again, this is just speculation at this point, maybe they can use that to say, well, then why even bother in the future? Like, if it comes to Xbox and doesn't do anything, then don't even bother with Xbox versions. But the reality is, in a lot of cases, and this isn't just a Square issue, there are other Japanese publishers especially, and there are other European publishers who look at the business reality and say, like, Xbox represents X% of our market share. Xbox is only going to sell X%, and it's a small percent in some cases. And sometimes they look at that development cost, because even the cheapest port of a AAA game is going to take 6 months, and a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. So it's not a cheap endeavor. As much as people say, oh, it's so easy to do a port in this day and age, it's easier than it has been, but it still is a time commitment. It's still an investment. So it's still a financial business risk. So some of these games, the brutal reality is that some of these publishers feel that they don't need to do business with Xbox. It's not that they hate Xbox or Xbox fans. It's that they just don't care enough to even bother doing an Xbox version, because in their eyes, whether it's true or not, they feel it's not worth doing an Xbox version. And that's, it sucks for Xbox fans. It sucks for Xbox, as they're spending a lot of time and resources investing in Japan, trying to correct this. And there is a potential where this is addressed in a meaningful way. It's just going to take a lot of, like, good faith gestures on Xbox's part. And unfortunately for Xbox, because of PlayStation and Nintendo's dominance with these publishers and these markets, they're going to have to spend more than PlayStation would. They're going to have to spend more than Nintendo would, time and time again. Like, they can't do it just once. They have to do it over and over and over. And if you're Xbox, I understand looking at that and saying, is it even worth it? Like, we have to balance the business reality. Like, we could spend all this time and money and all these resources and not have it pay off. So they have to weigh that as well. So again, boring business reality is that it's a very complicated situation. Xbox is very much the underdog in terms of relationships and market share in that region with these publishers, and there's no guaranteed success with their ports. So
yeah, it's something I want to say about, like, regions is, like, me and you are both in America. I assume most of your watchers are in America, right? Like, regions are super different Right? Like I was telling you about this before the show. I know someone who lives in the Philippines where she said like you basically just cannot buy an Xbox there. Right? Like you go to the stores and they have PS5s, they have Switches, they just don't have Xboxes, right? And then somebody else I follow on Twitter who she's very Xbox centric. I forget her name exactly. I don't know. A lot of people know who she is. Anyways, she went to I want to say like India or something like that and posted a picture and was like, "Oh, I want to," or it might have been New Zealand even, which is like even more wild. I can't remember. Anyways, she posted and it was a picture of a store with like a bunch of Xbox marketing and was like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see this here." Like there was Xboxes and stuff like that, and a lot of people responded and were like, "That no, Xbox does not care about this region at all. That's all bought and shipped over so that way like that retailer can sell their stuff." And it was just this whole like misconception of like, you know, it's just regions are just so different. So here, I go to Target and I see the Xbox section is just as big as the PlayStation section.
Yeah.
But I think when you go to other regions, it's just a different thing. And other regions probably sometimes feel like they don't have a choice. They're like, well, I see a PlayStation, but I don't see an Xbox, so I'm going to buy a PlayStation. So then Square Enix goes, well, here PlayStation's the only thing that sells. So that's where we're going to go for.
I have people DM me and email me all the time from other countries around the world and talk about, you know, poor localization or poor representation or poor support in the market from Xbox. And the reality is it's incredibly difficult to support a global brand and like have meaningful support in all of these different countries where laws are different, where language is different. And so it's a lot of work. It's definitely not, you know, to say like, oh, well, the Xbox just needs to do better. In some ways, yes, they do. But Xbox they're trying.
I think here in America, they look absolutely even, right? I like never see Series X in the store. I never see PlayStation in the store, but it's like, that's just not how it is everywhere. But it, like, to me, to what I see, they seem even. And that's,
brother, America's home turf. Why isn't Xbox number one, dude? Come on now. Buy American, god damn it. But you're right. I
got nothing for you.
In the US, that's the best case scenario for Xbox in terms of representation. And in some areas, PlayStation is still bigger than Xbox, even on home turf. Like I talked about going to the Game Awards, and you could feel a tonal shift in the energy between Xbox announcements and PlayStation announcements. Like you could feel it in the crowd. It was pretty wild. Like
I don't recall there being any Xbox announcements.
Marcus. Yeah, I mean, sorry.
You're gonna have to remind me of those.
Yeah, fair. Yes, the Xbox. I mean, the Ninja Xbox Game Pass commercial. Where was the energy for that?
I don't know.
But yeah, PlayStation and Nintendo both just have some decades on Xbox, which is a huge factor. But yeah, the situation's complicated. It is a bummer.
I know it really is weird to think about. It seems like Xbox and PlayStation are really new, but like Nintendo's been around since what, like 86? And it's like, but PlayStation came around in like 94. So they kind of been around since kind of the start of the big three. But when you think about it, Xbox has been around since 2000. So
yeah. So like things move very quickly in that space, in that period of time. And like Japan, as Phil Spencer has said, in a lot of ways is the heart of gaming. Like that's kind of where a lot of us, especially from our generation, we fell in love with Japanese games because that's what there was really. That was like how
growing
video games
up
became mainstream.
Yeah, growing up, I was like the biggest Final Fantasy nerd ever. Like, you know, like I bought a PS2 for Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, bro.
Right? Like that's, and you know, eventually went back and 7, 8, 9 are some of my favorite games of all time. Brave Fencer Musashi, like that was my era. That's like what made me. I remember the first time I played Final Fantasy 7, and I was like, I don't attack. I just tell him to attack. This is garbage. And I remember just not playing it. And then it was like cut to a year later, and I'm like, oh, I almost only exclusively play Japanese RPGs.
Oh yeah, we all had that phase where we find that one game, we're like, oh, what? This is what this is. I want every single game that's this. Like
I should be attacking, not just telling him to attack. I don't get it. And then I was like, oh no, never mind, I get it. And this is great.
It's
this is the best.
Portal Player in the chat brings up an interesting point, saying latest NPD had PS5 outselling Series X 2-1, and this is American data. Yeah, so again, consoles in this day and age aren't the only metrics for success, because the console market's becoming more and more ethereal, and we're going to talk about that here in a sec. But that's still an indicator that PlayStation, you know, from a mind share, is outperforming Xbox and is a bigger brand than Xbox. And I don't think it's unfair, regardless of how you feel about Xbox and PlayStation. PlayStation is a bigger brand. It's just the reality. And Xbox wants to be a bigger brand, and that's why they're spending a lot of money on acquisitions, and they're really, you know, spending a lot of money on marketing, because they have illusions of being a bigger brand. But for the time being, PlayStation is a bigger brand than Xbox, and that ensures that a lot of publishers, whether they want to or not, are going to support that platform. And
well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's controversial to say that since 2014, PlayStation has had just a much better, more consistent output of first party, right? Like that's
no.
I don't know why people have an issue admitting that Xbox has been stumbling for the past decade, right? Like that's not an opinion. That's just how it is. And so it's just kind of like they are starting to make up for it. And this next decade is going to be super interesting. And I super can't wait to see it. But like to pretend that these two huge brands have been the same for the past 2 years is honestly, it's just like silly most of the time, because it's just like there's been great games on both sides, but one side has been far more consistent. And I'm not even saying that as like a Sony fan, because I saw people in the chat being like, why is Mark here? He's a Sony guy. Most people, if anybody watches me on IGN, they'll know that I play a lot of stuff on PC, like because I'm very, very sensitive to input lag, and PC is like the one platform.
Here comes Mr. 4090 over here. Oh god.
And so it's like it's one of those things. And well, because I was gonna say, right, because I want to agree with you where you said, you know, console sales versus is not the only metric, and that's absolutely true, because when I play a game that I have to play on PlayStation, I play it on PlayStation. But when I have to play a game that I have to play on Xbox, I almost always play it on PC, right? And I think a lot of people do that. That still means that game is strong for Xbox. But I don't necessarily need, like, I've not played Hi-Fi Rush on an Xbox before, because like I was like, I'm just gonna play it on PC, right? And I think a lot of people do that. That's Microsoft's goal, right? They want to be everywhere.
Pretty much said they don't really care where you're playing their stuff, right? And that's why they're bringing it everywhere.
Yeah, and so seeing the like loss of like, okay, or not loss, but like, oh, Series X doesn't sell as much. Well, yeah, because that's kind of what Microsoft is intending. They know it's not going to sell as much because they care more about Game Pass subscriptions. They care more about you being able to play a game anywhere. That's what's more important to them.
Yeah, if they like, Xbox has looked at the console space and said like, all right, it's going to be tough, next to impossible for us to really be one-to-one with PlayStation and Nintendo in the console space. So what if we just disrupt what that is? What if we say, all right, fine then, like at Xbox, the ecosystem is more than the console. Ironically, Xbox was the first to say we are more than just the box. And that was like hard for people to wrap their mind around. And you had like traditionalists saying like, oh, well, it's not a console, so it doesn't count. Like, it's not an exclusive. It's like,
well, and that's what's tough when it comes down to the whole like what is exclusive, but also just like sales, right? People think, oh, Xbox is failing or whatever because it's selling, 50% of what PlayStation's selling, and it's like, well, that mattered a decade ago, but that doesn't matter now.
That's ignoring cloud, that's ignoring PC, that's ignoring all of these other factors that lead into the big picture.
Because there's no way to quantify PC sales, right? People can build their own computer. So if I want to play Starfield and I own nothing, I can, I'm buying something from Gigabyte. I'm buying something from NVIDIA to build this thing to buy Starfield. So the only thing Xbox is seeing is that I'm playing Starfield. They are not seeing any sort of sale otherwise. And they know that that's a thing, and they've had to kind of adapt to that. And that's fine. But if you live in a world where you're like, Xbox Series isn't selling as much as PS5, that's just the old way of thinking.
More and more, I think a lot of the biggest companies are realizing that a certain group of players, they won't meet you there. Like if you say you can only play this game on this machine, okay, I won't play this game. And I think the PC audience is very staunch on that. There's a lot of like people who've waited for PlayStation games to be ported to PC before they bother playing them. And I think in this day and age, you really can't ignore that market because it's just so old fashioned to say like it takes us back to the HD DVD versus Blu-ray debate where you had to actually buy like exclusive, like certain movies only released on one platform or the other, and you would have to buy an HD DVD player to buy and watch the B movie as the prime example. And who's gonna do that
during that era?
Who the hell is gonna do that in this day and age?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know why Blu-ray won, right? Though, right? Yeah. This is a family show. Never mind. We're not going to get into that. I will say though, and this is just, I'll put my Sony hat back on. The whole like idea of like, if you don't play a game, if a game only comes out somewhere, yeah, absolutely. There are a ton of people that have just not played like Ghostwire Tokyo or like Deathloop before it came to Xbox. But at the same time, PlayStation exclusives, like actual like console, God of War Ragnarok is only on one console, right? Like that's an exclusive. Games still sold like a lot. So it does work sometimes, but I think people are kind of playing it year by year, right? Like right now, Sony has a very lacking first party output, right? Because they haven't shown anything, right? So the only thing that we're sure of is Factions will come eventually, and that will likely get Spider-Man 2 in September, right? But other than that, Sony is kind of like they don't have any first party games really this year. Like Forspoken that's Square, that's not even first party. Final Fantasy is not first party. Where Xbox had Hi-Fi Rush, they do have Ghostwire. The game's been out, but it is coming. They'll have Redfall, they'll have Starfield, and then we'll see if something comes out during the fall. And so it's like, this is the year of Xbox, right? And I agree. This is one
of their strongest years ever.
That's an outstanding output of first party, right?
Yeah.
But it takes more than a year to suddenly like people are so fast to write, to put something in the ground. Oh, PlayStation's dead. After a decade of consistent first-party outlook, 2023 is looking a little light. Dead console. It's like, and I think
those shifts are very dramatic, and they're not usually the reality. But we do see it a lot online.
Yeah, and that's where I think Xbox is looking at is like, what, we're gonna take a few licks at the beginning of the Series X lifestyle, life span, but we are eventually going to have things, and now we're starting to see it. So if they can keep it up, I think they do have a very bright future, especially with the ABK.
Yeah, because again, consistency is key. Consistency is the one, I would say that's the biggest flaw of Xbox over the last decade is consistency. Again, anyone saying they haven't put out great games over that time, that's false. But they haven't put out games that have been good enough to keep people consistently engaged with the platform. Because
2021, man, I played so much Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite. Like those were my games,
that
man.
month. That was such a good 2 months for Xbox. It was this moment.
I recently had to shoot a video for IGN where we had to play Forza, and it was like me, Max Scoville, Stella Chung, and one of our other hosts. And like I'm like level 170 in Forza Horizon 5, which I know is like low by a lot of other people's standards. But I'm like, man, I forgot how much I played this game. I love that game.
Yeah, so Xbox has had those moments, and I think we look at this year, and if this year hits, and then they have another good year planned, like that momentum is so meaningful because we've seen that momentum shift from PlayStation and Xbox in the past. We've seen PlayStation go from the PS2 juggernaut, the PS2 just powerhouse, to losing a huge percentage of market share and mind share to the Xbox 360. Like just because
I was a 360 boy.
Just because Xbox 360 was way more consistent. Xbox 360 was just putting out game, and people are like, "Oh, hell yeah!"
Cheaper when it came out.
Cheaper and more consistent.
Cheaper.
And like,
yeah, absolutely.
So those things can shift, and again, people try to like oversimplify the reality of the situation, but Xbox is got some good trajectory going on, and hopefully they can just maintain. Again, if we have a quote unquote banger year this year, and then we go next year and it's just another empty year, then it's like, all right, okay, what's why is this happening? You put out eight games in 1 year, and
that's going to happen. No. I hope not.
No,
I think we're getting there.
Tinfoil hat time from me. I think as much as people were really mad about last year from Xbox and really disappointed by the output, I think Xbox looked at 2022 and said, you know what? Like we were just talking about with the live service games, like this is going to be a wash. You know what? Like we understand the reality of development. We understand where our teams are at. We understand people are frustrated that we're not consistent. So we're going to take this year. We're going to set up 2023 and the next few years to be more consistent. We're going to say, all right, you know what? Redfall, Starfield, you need more time. It is what it is. Sorry, we'll take the licks here. We'll take the PR hit. But I hope that means that now they have laid out that live service roadmap of like games that can be consistent.
Well, yeah, because Starfield was days away from God of War Ragnarok, right? Like as far as like the original release. So you would have had to have a direct head competition for a game that honestly is very clear wasn't ready yet, right? So for Xbox to have these like so many down years in a row to finally be like, here we go, Starfield, and then it just get trounced by God of War Ragnarok, which is, you know, a 10, like most people. That is a very solid game. For Starfield to come out and it would just not be ready. I'm talking about 2022
if it had
Starfield.
Yeah, if it
had shipped, right? I think Xbox was like, this is going to be two things against us, right? We're going to lose against this other huge first party game, and our big like exclusive, you know, space game is it's going to get trounced. And then you know, that's they were super smart to just hold it for 2023.
And again,
it makes 2022 look bad, but I think it'll pay off in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. And that's like, again, like we talk about the quality of games versus delays, and obviously delays are a bummer. I've joked about when Elden Ring was delayed by a month, I was like, oh, come on. But that was just 1 month, a small thing, and a small period of time in the grand scheme of things. So I hope that Xbox knows that, you know, they want their games to have this seal of quality moving forward. And I want to believe that Starfield was pushed so dramatically to ensure that that seal of quality is there, and they live up to that promise of saying, hey, when developers come join Xbox Game Studios, like their games are better than they've ever been. Like we want to make sure that Starfield is the best, and that's a tall order, let's be real, to say that, you know, Starfield's going to be the best Bethesda game ever. But I bet you that's what they want it to be and how they feel about the project. So,
yeah, it's likely it'll be going up against Spider-Man this year, and Spider-Man's tough, right? Just going off IGN numbers, Spider-Man 2018 there couldn't have been a bigger game for a long time.
People love Spooderman. He's just a big global brand.
People love it. It's a real fun game. But we're getting a different Starfield in September than we would have gotten in November. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. A couple super chats here. We got Garcia, who says Square seems scared and confused. Scared of Sony and confused about Xbox's moves. They remind me of a deer in the headlights. Great show. Hit that like button. I agree, Garcia. Smash that like button. Nick W says, who would you like to see Xbox get after ABK?
Nobody.
I hope we take a little break. I need a mental break. But if I'm picking one, I think I've talked about this before. Capcom is like, if I'm PlayStation or I'm Xbox and we're in this like world where everyone's buying everyone, I'm calling Capcom every single day, if that's the move. Like if I'm worried about PlayStation taking Capcom, or if I'm PlayStation, I'm worried about Xbox calling Capcom or taking Capcom, I'm calling them every day and saying, yo, we good? Because if we're not good, here's an offer. Here's an outrageous offer, because Capcom is just the most consistent publisher right now in a lot of ways. They are just killing it over and over and over again. So if either one of them loses out on Capcom, that's a huge hit, because their games sell well, their games are critically acclaimed, and you could swing Capcom games to be like, oh, if Capcom's only on this platform, then I need to be on this platform. That's kind of the weight that Capcom has right now, where Square, and Final Fantasy is a big deal for a lot of people, but Square's output has not been nearly as consistent as Capcom's.
Well, and Square is just, they're more than just a game company. Like I said, they're a huge publisher that, and so is Activision Blizzard, right? But somebody in your chat said, Jose said, after ABK, Xbox should get games released. Yeah, that's 100%. Like that's what we need. And I started this podcast by saying the words like I care so little about like sales, right? And that's kind of where it comes from, is like when these companies acquire somebody, it's like, now we know that this game will sell well on this platform, and I'm like, man, I just want people to play games, right? Like, I would love to be able to play Starfield on PlayStation. I would love Xbox people to play Spider-Man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just want people to play games.
That's where I'm at.
I care so little about exclusives or sales or who has what. Like, sorry, most the consoles, like, power output, they seem identical most of the time. Like, I just want people to just be able to play video games as much as they can.
Amen, brother. That's where I'm at. I people give me crap for being too kumbaya in this grand scheme of things, but I, like you, I genuinely don't care if, like, Sea of Thieves, for example, if that came to PlayStation, hell yeah, that's a new audience.
That means more people are playing Sea of Thieves.
Let's go.
How is that bad?
Exactly. And then when I talk about Legend of Mana coming to Xbox, people are like, just let it go, dude. Like, who cares? I'm like, I already own the game. It doesn't really matter for me, but I know that not everyone can or will buy every console, but there are dope games I want people to play. And if they can play in more places, then yeah, let's go.
Yeah, there's this thing where it's like, when PlayStation games do come to PC, right, as it's been happening, it's like, oh, you guys lost an exclusive. And I'm like, more people get to play Returnal. Returnal rules. Like, I'm just happy people get to play it. They get to play with an Xbox controller now if they want to. They get to play with a mouse and keyboard now. They get to play it at 200 frames a second. Like, congrats. Like, I'm just super happy because that game rules. Last of Us rules. Spider-Man and Miles Morales rule. I'm just glad more people get to play those games.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because one of my pet peeves is when someone says that exact thing where, oh, this is on PC, now it's not an exclusive, or they try to make it seem like because more people can play the game, it has less value. For me, an exclusive, it doesn't fundamentally make a game better. In some cases, yes, obviously an exclusive gets more investment, gets more resources, blah, blah. The business component that I hope funnels into making the game better. But I hate when people try to say that because a game is exclusive that it is fundamentally better, because that is so adverse to just game development and video games as a whole. And like you said, I get stoked when more people can play a game. Like, if an Xbox exclusive goes somewhere else, goes to PC, goes to, like, when Cuphead or Ori went to Switch, hell yeah, those games are rad as hell.
That doesn't take anything from me. Like,
no, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. The exclusive debate, for one, almost means nothing. Like, Xbox exclusive. That's such a, what are they called? Like, what is it? That's like, I don't know. I feel like that almost goes against their marketing when they say things are exclusive, because it just doesn't mean anything anymore.
Because now they're at this weird, if we're being objective, we're looking at Xbox, they're saying that, Xbox wants to bring games to more places and more players and more people. But then on the other side, they're like, well, we need exclusive games as well. And that's true. Like,
sure.
Exclusives
they absolutely do.
Are sexy for marketing purposes. They are big moments for the platform. They are big moments to say, hey, you need to be looking at Xbox right now because this isn't exclusive. And so for mind share and brand recognition, it is important. But for you as the customer, like, that doesn't really benefit you unless you only have that box. But if you don't, all that is trying to force you to do is either buy a box or subscribe to a service to be able to have access to the game. And it's, it's a business at the end of the day.
I'm not here to, like, poke holes in anything, but I just want to hear it from you, Miles.
Oh no. What are you doing? What are you doing?
How, in what universe is a game like Starfield exclusive? What does that mean?
So I think now Xbox, again,
like, it means not on PlayStation.
It's exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem.
Okay, so
which now
basically what
to
you're saying is every Steam game is an Xbox game. Because that game's also on Steam.
It's also on Steam, exactly. And so that's again
not an Xbox platform.
Mhm.
But because it's on Windows,
Mhm.
it becomes an Xbox game?
Yes, more or less. You're buying it on like a Microsoft device in one
You
way,
see how
shape, or
little
form.
the word exclusive means nowadays? I can not own a single piece of Xbox hardware. I have a Windows PC. I can play Starfield on Steam with a mouse and keyboard, and that is still an Xbox exclusive. That means that word almost betrays itself in 2023 because it just means almost nothing.
It looks good on an ad, Mark. Okay, that's the reality.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying is that, and so Twitter has become just a marketing for big companies, and that's just so weird to me. Why are you doing their job for them?
So now you're seeing the word exclusive shift. They're not using just a blanket term exclusive. Now they're being specific, console exclusive.
Console exclusive absolutely makes sense. Final Fantasy 16 is a
console
PlayStation.
Exclusive.
Well, that's an actual exclusive because that's actually not coming to anything else. But like Spider-Man is a console exclusive, right? It's on PC, but it's a console exclusive. Starfield is a console exclusive, but like Xbox exclusive, yeah, Xbox console exclusive. But like, I don't know, it just becomes this weird thing. It almost makes the word, I feel like it betrays itself. I feel like there's such a good, sexy way to say exclusive, and I also feel like it also betrays everything that they're trying to do.
I'll ask you a question on the PlayStation side here, because I think increasingly exclusive, the term is not going to matter at all in the next decade, because I think PlayStation, especially with recent announcements from Naughty Dog about them taking development in-house for PC ports, I think PlayStation's going to go day and date for console and PC as well. As soon as they have the infrastructure set up for their teams, they're going to do that as well. So once PlayStation and Xbox, and we eliminate the noise of the console war space, how, like, what is the, like you said, what's exclusive even going to mean? Like, it's going to be, like you said, exclusive to just not the other console, not not a Nintendo box, and you can play it everywhere else. You can play it on your smart fridge, but you can't play it on a PlayStation 5 or a Nintendo Switch. Is basically what it's going to mean.
Well, and I don't make it I'm not here as a PlayStation person being like, when you guys say exclusive, that doesn't mean anything. I'm saying exclusives are dumb. I wish Final Fantasy 16 was on everything. Like, I wish it was everywhere. Because here's my question, and we follow each other on Twitter, and I see you as someone who does not, you don't really participate in like the console wars, because like I want to know what the end goal is there when it comes to a console war, right? People who have dedicated their lives and their Twitters and stuff like that to being like, I am exclusive to this platform, either Xbox or PlayStation. What is the end goal?
See, what bothers me about console war is that it implies that there is a time of peace. Like, but there is never a time of peace. It's just all out war.
It's always been a war.
It's scorched earth.
I just want to know, and you can't answer the question because you're not, you're not a console war person, but it's like, I want to know what the end goal is there. If I was a PlayStation console war person where my Twitter was dedicated, I'm a PlayStation fan. I enjoy PlayStation, and I don't think it's better than Xbox. It's just my platform preference, right?
And I think I'm going to take just a quick second to say that I think that's perfectly fine. Like, for me, I own everything, but I'm happy to say that Xbox is my preferred platform. Like, I like my PlayStation, but I just play more on Xbox. I don't think there's a fundamental problem with saying that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not like, right. So you're not participating in like the war. And that's what I'm asking though. And there's no answer to it, which is like, but what is the end goal there? That eventually everybody plays on the same platform?
It's just like it's the sports mentality. Like, I've talked to people who like have fun with the console war space, and like, it's not really my bag, but it is just like your team, like like from a psychological perspective, you are tying like you're like a sense of identity, like in community. Like, I am part of the Xbox community, and so therefore I want my community and my team to be perceived better, be more preferred, whatever the case might be. But it is just like a sports team thing where like sometimes it's just silly and you're just like, I like PlayStation more.
But there are people on Twitter, Miles, that that they hate the other platform.
Yeah. I mean,
like, you know, on both sides.
That's like sometimes you go to a sports event and you have like you're cheering for your one team, and then you have the dude in the crowd who's like actively trying to fight people. And like that's like we all know that person's
I just try
wrong.
to hypothetically wonder like what is the end goal there, right? That everybody plays on Xbox. It just sounds so boring to me, right? That everybody plays on PlayStation. There's no win there. A war to imply a war means there eventually has to one day be peace, like you said. And it's like there never will be. People are always going to have a platform preference.
I've said the only way to settle the console wars once and for all is to get Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer on stage. Just a WWE SmackDown.
Phil Spencer would body Jim Ryan.
That's the only way to settle it. The victor gets the belt.
I've never met Jim Ryan, but I've met Phil Spencer in person, and I've also met Sean Layden in person, and I feel like that could maybe be a thing, or maybe like not Shu, because I've met Shu in person as well. Now Phil Spencer would probably body Shu. It's unfortunate.
I'm just imagining, from the Phil Spencer from the top ropes dropping an elbow on Jim Ryan.
When you look at Xbox executive teams, like you have Phil, you have like Sarah Bond, you have Aaron Greenberg. Yeah, they're probably going to body the PlayStation executive team. That's unfortunate. Even Nintendo, they PlayStation and Nintendo executives would have to team up, and they would probably still get destroyed. Aaron Greenberg's just a tank. You're just knocking people up. Man, see, those are the console wars I want to see.
Exactly,
that's what I want. I want video game company executive tournament fighter.
I would pay a subscription service for that. You know, I would pay-per-view.
I would buy the pay-per-view.
Pay-per-view for that. Let's go. Let's settle it once and for all. Let's hash it out.
Yes, but no items, no items. Final destination.
Yes, Lucius gets it. No items. Fox only. Phil versus Jim. Let's go. Settle it and smash. But yeah, some people in the chat are saying that that's really just a vocal minority, and I think that's really true.
It absolutely is.
Because like when growing up, console wars weren't really a thing. Like I remember like being stoked when my buddy had a Sega, because I didn't have a Sega at home, and I was like, hell yeah, I want to go play Sonic. And then he'd come over and I'd have the Super Nintendo, and he'd be like, hell yeah, I want to play Mario. And that was it. Like that was the extent of like a real interaction. But
because we were kids though. Like those companies did go to war.
Oh, they did.
Blast processing, and at the end of the day, Sega Genesis actually is a little bit more powerful than like Nintendo, but like in ways that are like kind of unquantifiable. And then obviously like Super Nintendo's first party output is just
But like, Mark, I do want to tell you
a
real life example of console wars in my life that happened recently. Before I moved
You drove a tank.
Before I moved back to Washington State, I was living in Colorado, and we had a maintenance person come over to take a look at something. And he comes in my office and he's stoked. He's like, sees my gaming setup. He's like, oh, hell yeah, that's awesome. Like sees my PlayStation 5, gets all excited. And then he sees that my chair, this office chair, has an Xbox logo on it.
Oh, no.
And he's like, oh, you're an Xbox guy? And I was like, whoa, brother, slow it down. You're bringing the console wars into my house? And he was like, in my home telling me that PlayStation's better. And I'm like, dude.
Furniture console wars?
I'm like, bro, like you're looking here. I have an Xbox and a PlayStation right next to each other. Come on, man. Like,
yeah. And that's kind of what I mean, right? Is like, what is that person's end goal for you to just be like, just burst out into tears and be like, you're right. Let's go to the backyard and burn my chair. Like, what's the end goal there, man? People are just gonna play what they want to play. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh yeah, so we're having some fun. Again, like one of the things I love about the show is it's an Xbox show, but like you said, like I don't really care about the console war stuff. Like when I talk about the business of Xbox, I'm talking about it because I love the industry and what that could potentially mean for the games. Because again, all of us are here because we like games, and we've had those games that have changed our lives or changed what we think things could be. It's like it's not that the subscription service or the money or how much brand recognition or market share one company has over another. It's just what they can do with that in terms of experiences. So yeah, the console wars are just tiring, but
it's about the games. I have not looked at an MPD chart in forever. I have no idea which console sells better. I mean, I know because I work at IGN, and you know, but like when somebody said that like it was selling 50% to one, like I didn't know that. Like because what do I care? Like what a console sells. I don't own stock in these consoles. Like, I don't.
Give me a cut. All right, that's
Right. Like if something, I'm not an influencer, right? Like, and that's the thing is like when you're an influencer, when Xbox is sending you stuff, then you want Xbox to do great. Or PlayStation sending you stuff, or Nintendo, right? Like, but I'm not an influencer. I have consoles and I play games. Like, I don't care if Xbox was the top selling of June. Like, that means so little to me because I don't own stock in that company. So why do I care?
All right, Mark. We got to talk about the biggest piece of news of the week. And that revolves around the end of an era.
I don't even know anymore.
The end of an era, because this week it's been wild. It's been, there's been a lot of developments. The last couple weeks we've seen PlayStation pull out of E3. I mean, we knew they weren't really going to be there. We've seen Xbox.
They pulled out in like 2018. But
yeah. Nintendo, Ubisoft, Tencent, like all Sega. Of the biggest publishers have said, nah, we're not going to E3. So a lot of people are looking at E3 this year and saying, who's going to be there? And is it even going to happen at this point? Can you have the biggest gaming conference of the year without the biggest publishers being involved? And
the answer was no.
You're right. The answer is no. It's been officially confirmed that E3 2023 is not happening. The event has been canceled. And it sucks because a lot of people have already paid for travel and paid for lodging, so they got to figure out all that. But the reality is they were not able to make a compelling event happen in 2023. So, couple big questions on this. First off, was this a surprise, and how did it hit you?
No, it wasn't a surprise because that is the kind of stuff that I do kind of have to live and breathe at IGN, and we could see the writing on the wall, right? I'd been in, not to just say behind closed door meetings, but like we could kind of just, you're like, this probably, how big do we want to go? Because if you've ever been to, have you ever been to E3?
I went to E3, yes, 2019. I did go to E3, not in a professional sense, but when they opened it up to the public, I did go to E3.
Sure. So you'll know that if you walk into the main E3 entrance, you hang a right, and there's a big GameSpot booth and there's a big IGN booth, right? Like we had very invested in E3. We would rent a nearby war room, and we would all work from there for a week, and a lot of investment goes into covering that show. And so there's been a lot of talks about like, what are we going to do? Are we going to get a booth? Are we going to rent a war room? We have an LA office. It's a lot bigger than the LA office we had pre-pandemic, which is why we had to rent a war room back then. But our LA office is in Santa Monica, not very close to the convention center. And so there's been a lot of talks about like, what are we going to do? And it's like, it's been very much like, I don't know. It was like every day something was different, right? It was like, E3's on, we're going and we're sending everybody just like the old days. And it's like, we'll send some people, we have a booth. We don't have a booth. And so especially being 2 months out, not to give IGN props, but I will give our reporters, Kat Bailey and Rebecca Valentine, props. We are the one that broke the story about E3 not being there because we're the ones that broke that Tencent and Sega weren't going to be there. And then we're the ones that got the scoop that E3 was officially canceled. It broke our website when that news went live because we were the only source for that. And it just destroyed our website, which we have decided that if somebody puts out a news story that breaks the website, instant promotion. And that's just how it works. So Rev is now the president of our company.
Congrats. Well deserved. Well, she's been out there killing it. So
so no, to answer your question in the longest way I possibly could have, I was not surprised by this.
No, we saw the writing. Again, it's a moment. It's a moment for the industry, and I've seen people obviously clown on it, and that's fine. There's been some fantastic memes. The LA Convention Center with the Spirit Halloween banner.
Yep. The beautiful. Skill Up ball pit pulled out. That was a good one. Yeah, it's been great.
Oh, there's been some great memes, and I'm a man who loves a good meme. But then a lot of people have been sharing like fond memories of it because in a lot of ways it was this cool moment for everyone to come together and celebrate games. And you've been to E3, so do you have any fun memories or fond memories of your time there?
Yeah, so I've been to E3 every year that I could have gone, right? So I started in IGN October 2015, and I went to E3 16, 17, 18, 19. Right, that's everyone that I could have been at. I was there. So growing up, I started IGN when I was 27, right? And so growing up, it was always this thing where it's like E3 is great, but E3 is great if you can. And I'm sure you've done this as well. Have you ever gotten friends together to watch E3, watch the conferences?
Yeah.
Well, and or even like in a digital age, right? You
get the group
work
together
for IGN now a lot of times, and you kind of see we all kind of get together and we get on Discord and we watch these shows together, right? That camaraderie, it's so much fun. But I was always told, right, like being in the IGN war room or being in a big publisher's war room, like that's where it's at, right? And so I always wanted to go, right? So I got hired by IGN. I got to go to E3 2016, and what a year, man. What a year to go to as a PlayStation fan, as a first time going to E3. That was when...
Was that the E3 of Dreams? Oh, no.
It really was. Well, 16 and 17 were both the E3 Dreams for PlayStation, but it was like...
it the Final Fantasy VII Remake one? Is that the...
It was Remake. I don't think Remake was at E3 2016. That was when Horizon, Spider-Man, God of War, and Death Stranding got announced.
Oh, okay.
And not only was Death Stranding like this huge deal, right? But that was after all the Konami drama of Kojima getting
blocked from the award show.
Yeah. He wasn't allowed to go to anything. And then he comes out on that stage where the steps were lighting up as he walked down, and I'm back and stuff like that. Like, imagine being in the IGN war room when Kojima walked out and said, I'm back. Like, just like, I don't know how to describe that moment, right? Like, our war room exploded. And then if anybody here remembers the launch trailer or the reveal trailer for Death Stranding, you're showing crabs on the beach and it's playing Low Roar, and it's just kind of, and so everyone gets real quiet and everyone's watching. And then you see this man pick up a baby, and then the camera pans over and it's Norman Reedus, right? The original star of Silent Hills. Imagine what it was like in that war room, right? Like, it just exploded. And it's just like, you just can't beat those moments. That was E3 for me, was seeing Beyond Good and Evil 2, may it rest in peace, for the first time with a ton of people that were so excited to play that game. And The Last Guardian and stuff like that. Just all these games just getting announced. Like, those were the E3 moments for me, was those press conferences. And that's what I'll miss now that the show's gone.
Yeah.
Luckily, press conferences are still a thing.
Those won't go away. Those are still won't around go away. Stay.
But being in a group with 50 of my coworkers and friends and being able to watch those conferences on a big projector we had set up, like, that's stuff that I'm like, okay, E3 is like rough sometimes, but like those moments are gone, and that's too bad.
One of my favorite things in the world is being with someone when they're really excited about something. And so you feel it at the Game Awards. You feel it, like, it's similar energy when you go to like a concert and your favorite band comes out and plays your favorite song, and you just feel the room. You feel it in the room, like like nothing else. And that's very much what some of these events are like, when you get that big reveal, or you get the gameplay reveal for something you've been waiting for. Like, I would have loved to be in the crowd when Elden Ring was revealed, and just to like feel that energy, because like you said, nothing really replicates that. As much as we can do stuff remotely, and it is still fun, and you still share the energy. Like, it's hard to describe, but if you've ever been to a concert, I think that's the closest thing, because you can literally feel someone else's energy radiating off them, and it's wild. It's infectious, and it's this really cool, like almost transcendent experience.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people are talking about the Cyberpunk moment in your chat, and that
you're breathtaking.
100%.
Keanu Reeves in the game comes out on stage.
You're watching the Cyberpunk trailer, and you're just like, "Oh man, this is so cool!" But like, we'd seen Cyberpunk before; this was nothing new. And then it's like, wake up, samurai, and then you're like, "What was that? Keanu Reeves? What the hell?" And then it's like, and then the freaking door opens up, and Keanu walks out. Like, it's just, you can't. Those moments are like ones that like can't be replicated. You can't try for those things. They just happen and they live on, and it's definitely like, yeah, exactly. But the launch of Cyberpunk, that has nothing to do with E3. But yeah, those are the moments where you're like, man, we had some good times. We had some good times.
So with all of this, like, a lot of people have very fond memories and like enjoyed the experience. We know Jeff Keighley has Summer Game Fest, which is poised to carry on the torch. and my God, that man's been
Yeah.
ruthless. Oh my God, dude, he's been like, I was joking because they announced E3 was canceled. My first tweet, like seconds after, was like, "Oh man, R.I.P. Can't wait for the Jeff Keighley Summer Game Fest is bigger and bolder than ever before" tweet. And then like a minute later, sure enough, boom, there it is. I'm like, Jeff,
here's
no remorse. The body is still warm.
Say. Jeff is he's living it up, right? He's great. And he works insanely hard. He puts on so many shows a year now, right? It used to just be the Game Awards. Now he does E3, and now he does Gamescom, Opening Night Live. Like, the dude works, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say, and I'm not gonna compare Jeff to Elon, except for this one moment. It's a little worrisome, right? That Twitter was a company with shareholders with a board, and now it is solely owned by one person, right? We've seen what that is. As far as I know, I'm still Mark verified on Twitter, Medina, but this podcast has been going for 2 hours. I may not be anymore.
Say goodbye to your check mark.
Right. Because one person made that decision, right? I will say it's a little worrisome. The ESA is, most people do not love the ESA, but I do worry about this like consolidation of everything exciting in gaming rests on this one person's shoulders, and he becomes this godlike figure. It's a little concerning that Jeff is seen as this like savior of like gaming, when I'm like, okay, basically one person has all the say when it comes to it, like the idea of excitement in video games. All of that is on Jeff. That is like, I don't know how much I love that, actually. I'm not saying corporations are better than a person, but I'm also saying that I don't love that it's like this one person kind of is seen as this, like, he's the keeper of excitement.
Yeah,
it's a little concerning.
Yeah, I do think that Jeff has done a lot. He works hard. He's put on some great shows. He's made a lot of strides.
Yeah,
him and his team over the last couple years. But yeah, it is, you know, the way that he's kind of, and he's been in the industry for a while, so I'm not trying to discredit him in any way.
Yeah,
but the way that he's kind of like taking this very brutal satisfaction with watching E3 die is you know, maybe
because maybe the three most exciting things of the year now are Opening Night Live, Summer Game Fest, and Game Awards. All things that he has direct control of.
Yep.
It's a little, I'm not going to celebrate just yet that one person has that much power. I mean,
yeah, we'll see. Now that E3, I guess I'll ask this final question. So do you think this is it for E3? Do you think this is the definitive death of E3?
Absolutely. I think it's over. I think that there's no COVID restrictions in California, right? Like, there's nothing you can do. You just went to the Game Awards. You can do whatever you want. Nobody makes you. The only place I have to wear a mask still is when I go to my dentist. And they just told me, by the way, next month we don't require a mask anymore, right? There's no COVID restrictions in California anymore. Hollywood has an end date for their COVID restrictions. I think it's like May 1st or something like that, where no Hollywood sets allowed to require vaccinations, nothing. COVID is, you know, for what it is like, for the most part, over. And E3 couldn't come back. It's over. Like, it couldn't. Yeah. It was always just like, oh, it's having a rough go because of COVID. And they couldn't make a comeback. I have very little faith that they'll recover.
That's how I feel. Like, it was already a big question mark for a long time about whether or not E3 could come back in a meaningful way that anyone would care about, especially now that all of these big publishers, as we've seen, have figured out how to do it themselves. And if they don't
need to pay the ESA hundreds of thousands of dollars anymore.
No, they can do it themselves for cheaper. They can do it for themselves and have their own moment. They don't have to share the moment with anyone else. They say, boom, this is our date. This is our time. Be there. Like, here it is. And like, that's cheaper. That's more effective for a marketing beat. And it's just easier to do. You don't have to you don't have to put a big booth. You don't have to man people there. You don't have to put a dedicated task force at the convention center. So yeah, if they couldn't get people back this year, I don't see how they do. And if it does come back, I think it's going to be exclusively a consumer facing show. with more like marketing brand. I mean, some people argue that it is a big ad as is, but I think if it comes back, it will be a huge ad in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I will say Kotaku put out an article where they said E3 didn't die. It was killed. And it was. E3 PlayStation left E3 before E3 was ever having troubles, right? They left in like 2018. They're like, we're done. So it was always inevitable that companies were going to just be like, you know, we don't need E3 anymore. We don't want to be beholden to this show. I don't think E3 has a choice in its own demise. A lot of people were saying like ReedPop was like very disorganized and it's like probably, but also like they can't afford to pay those big publishers what the big publishers would have required to be part of that show. And they don't really have control over that.
Yeah, if someone doesn't want to be there,
yeah.
Like, what do? You can't do anything. And again, like the whole draw of E3 was that all of the biggest companies are there. And when the biggest companies don't want to be there, you don't have an event.
You don't have a show. And so that's why I think that there is no future where E3 is like, you know what, we're making a comeback. We're the most organized we've ever been. Cool. If Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation say, well, now we're not interested. We'll continue to do our own things when we're ready to do them, then it's not coming back. There's nothing they can do about that.
It'd be like if every big band at Coachella was like, I'm not going. Like if you had Snoop Dogg headlining and Metallica headlining and they're like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm going to do my own thing. Then like there's no point in that. It's
over.
RIP. So RIP to E3. We had a good run, 27 years, not a bad run. I saw somebody, I forget who it was. They tweeted that the, I think it's the International Clown Convention though, outlived E3 because the International Clown Convention hit its 40th year this year. So
some would say that E3 was the International Clown Convention.
All right, a couple super chats, and we got one more section. We got Nick W says so many great memories from E3 and so many great memes spawned from E3, like the giant enemy crab. Yep, E3, just beautiful. Jacob Novik says, hello, Miles, Mark, and chat. Scenario, if the new Xbox comes out in 2028, do you think it's possible that Xbox Series S and X will sell 100 million units, if not more? I know that Xbox isn't counting sales, but regardless. 2028, so 5 years from now.
I don't know how many it sold. I don't know where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think increasingly, I don't know. It's going to be tough. I mean, obviously, we've seen the Switch come out and be a juggernaut in sales numbers, and we've seen PlayStation come out and do tons of sales numbers. So I'm not going to say it's impossible moving forward for consoles to hit 100 million, but I think it's going to become increasingly difficult for any console to hit 100 million units. But
do you know what either of them are at?
I want to say PlayStation is 32-ish million and Xbox is 23-ish. Again, that's just off the top of my head, rough.
You could have flipped those and I would have believed you. I have no idea. And before anybody says, Mark, you work at IGN, you should know this stuff. I work on the wiki team. It is not my job to know console sales. It is my job to show you how to do stuff.
That's
in
right.
Video games.
Okay, Mark, let's have a little fun. The final section of today's show is we're going to sit down, you, me, and all the people joining us live. So if you're still here hanging out, appreciate you. Hit the like button, share it out. We are going to hash out something serious.
How long is this segment? I do have to go soon, but I think I'm good.
Okay,
let me know. We've gone on way longer than I thought we were going to go.
Yeah, we are,
which is great.
Okay, we'll make this quick. We're going to pick the 5 games that most deserve remakes or reboots. 5 games. In your eyes, number 1, what's your gut telling you? The game number 1 that most needs a remake or a reboot?
Yes. So, if you know anything about Mark, it's that he is a huge Super Mario 64 fan. I can easily say I'm a 60 Super Mario 64 speedrunner.
Oh.
I can easily say that I'm faster than anybody in the video games media industry. I've challenged people many times. Nobody is faster than me at that game. In the media, not actual speedrunners. In actual speedrunners, they will beat me. But yeah, I would say nobody is a bigger fan of that game than I am, and it needs a modern remake. It does.
Super Mario
Same controls.
64.
Same controls. I don't want Odyssey controls. Super Mario 64 controls better than like almost any platformer to still exist. And that game came out in 1996. That game is near perfect with its controls. I don't want you to change anything about it. I just want you to don't even change the camera. You can't mess with the camera. The camera's perfect. I just want to see a prettier version of it. I want a lag-free experience because like they came out with their collection, and this is where we're gonna get a little nerdy, Miles.
Nerdy on a video game podcast?
Yeah, they came out with their collection. I want to say a year ago, where it was that Sunshine and Galaxy. But the Mario version that they ported over was a version called the Shindu version, which is arguably the worst version of that game. We needed either the Japanese or the North American version. They went with the Shindu version because it's the most recent version of that game.
Okay.
And so it is not very fun for someone like me who knows how that game should feel to play that game on Switch. There's a little bit too much lag there for me. I don't like it. So Super Mario 64, that is my pick.
Number one, Super Mario 64. My number one. Absolutely. This is gonna be a wild card. This is gonna be a curveball. Ape Escape. Ape Escape, the
never
original. What? As a PlayStation fan, you never played Ape Escape?
PlayStation during the PlayStation 1 days, I've already said on this podcast, I was almost solely exclusively playing Japanese RPGs.
Man, Ape Escape, that was the first game that introduced the DualShock, bro. That was the game that innovated the controller in a way that we rarely see. Like I remember playing that game and like fumbling around with the dual sticks and all of the mechanics and kind of gimmicks.
And it's still perfect. The sticks being perfectly lined up how they are.
Okay, no, I know. You know, we're kumbaya in some ways.
With Ape Escape, and it's
we're
still
kumbaya
strong today.
Until you try to tell me that parallel sticks are better. That's when I have to say no, Mark. No, absolutely not.
Oh, Command & Conquer is such a good one.
But yeah, Ape Escape.
Good one.
Cool, really cool game. Yeah, we got some good ones, Jeff. Remake King's Quest. We got Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, Titanfall, Mass Effect 2, Donkey Kong 64.
Titanfall. He's not even that old.
All right, what's next for you?
I see Code Veronica, and I'm part of that camp. I do not want to remake a 5. I want Code Veronica is next.
RE5 will be next, though.
I know.
Just accept it, all you Code Veronica fans out there.
Dude, Code Veronica is so good.
I'm
just saying.
I'm thinking about doing like a membership milestone goal to replay it because infamously, I've talked about how I love Resident Evil, but I think Code Veronica is kind of a stinker. It's and Resident Evil 0 are kind of weird games that I don't like to play. I've replayed all the Resident Evil games a lot. I haven't beat 0 or Code Veronica because I don't like them. But I'm considering going back. I tried 2 years ago to play Code Veronica on 360, and still I was like, man, I don't get it. But RE5, I'm playing it right now, baby.
Not even that old.
I'm playing RE5 right now.
Oh man, Parasite Eve is another good one. Someone after my own heart. PlayStation.
Parasite Eve,
Japanese RPGs. Do I get one more or two more?
I'll give you two more. You get two more.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna go with Final Fantasy 9. Give it the Final Fantasy 7 remake trip.
Where's Final Fantasy 8?
8 is objectively the worst of the three. And when I say the worst, I love Final Fantasy 8. But You're
losing me here.
That is clearly the worst of those three games.
Squall is the ultimate Final Fantasy Chad. There's never been a bigger Chad in the Final Fantasy universe.
What about somebody else also in that game? Zell. He's a pretty big Chad.
Final Fantasy 9. I know people love 9.
Game not as good. Yeah. Final Fantasy 9 is great because Final Fantasy 9 was a return to form for Final Fantasy. So
I'll be sad if they skip 8. All right, if they try to just leave 8 in the past, I'll be sad a little bit.
Yeah.
I got fond memories of that.
Me too. Oh, I love 8, dude. Don't get me wrong.
Dead Rising. Dead Rising is my next one, baby. Dead Rising.
Oh, that'd be a fun one.
And with the Capcom just absolutely destroying remakes and reboots right now.
What a novel idea. You're in a mall and anything is a weapon. What a game.
That's fun. That's just video game fun first and foremost.
It's not hard. Like zombies just like they walk to you super slow. The challenge is being like, I'm bored of this golf club. Now I'm gonna go find something else to beat the heck out of these zombies with. What a game.
What a game. Capcom, come on, dude.
What
like
a
that
silly idea for a game.
Dead Rising, beautiful. That was the reason I bought a 360. The first time I played Dead Rising at a friend's house, I was like, ran home, grabbed a bunch of my old games to sell, went to the game store and was like, I'm trading in my original Xbox and I'm getting a 360 because I need to play Dead Rising, baby. Let's go.
What a games. That was really like, it was like, man, nothing's nailed down. You can do whatever you want. What a game.
What a game. All right, Mark, final pick, number 5 here. Of the 5 games that most deserve remakes and
I'm gonna go with my favorite Fallout, which is New Vegas.
Fallout New Vegas. Oh,
New Vegas could use a
okay.
remake.
Yeah. All
that
right.
game's great. That game's great. Fallout 3 is also really good. I love all the Fallout games. Well, I didn't really play 1 and 2. I'm not gonna try to act like I did. But Fallout 3 is great. Fallout New Vegas, given to Obsidian with not nearly enough time as they should have been able to be able to pull a game together, and they still pulled together a fantastic game. I would love for them to, even if it's not Obsidian, but like I would love for someone to be able to take New Vegas and give that game the time like that it deserved, right? Because that game was made in like a year, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
it should have been given so much more time. And so I would love a company to be able to give that game the time it deserved. Like Fallout 3 is fantastic, and sure, go ahead and remake it while you're there. But that game got the time that it deserved. New Vegas did not, and it's still fantastic. So imagine if it was remade. What a great game.
What a great game. This is a fantastic, eclectic list. We got Super Mario 64, Ape Escape, Final Fantasy IX, Dead Rising, and Fallout New Vegas. All right, I don't think anyone can dispute that these are the 5 games that most deserve a remake or reboot right now.
Yeah. Take Ape Escape off and put the original Assassin's Creed on there. Actually, that's the definitive list. Man, I love that game, and I would love that. I'm so excited for Mirage because I think that return to form for Assassin's Creed is going to be very, very good. Because I love old Assassin's Creed, especially the first one. I do love it. I love 2 more, but I do love 1. But man, it's just. They lost me with Valhalla.
Gotta go back to the roots, man. Like when your favorite band does a detour and they change their sound, and then everyone gets mad, and then they do their press tour and they're like, "We're going back to our roots, bro."
Yeah, well, it's because it's like Origins was good. Are you an Assassin's Creed fan?
No. I mean, I like them. Okay, I've played a handful, but
Origins is when it became what it is now, which is basically a Witcher-like. Great game.
I loved Origins.
Odyssey, yeah. Bayek won a really, really good protagonist. Odyssey is when, Cassandra's a great protagonist as well, but like that is when they started like, you're like, whoa, this game is super long. And then Valhalla, man. A Ubisoft game does not deserve 90 hours of playtime for just like the main story. Like the main story of that game takes like 70 hours to beat. Like that's insane. That's too much. They need to tone it down.
I don't disagree at all. Like, yeah, you're losing me at 50. If you're forcing me to do 50 hours for a main campaign, that campaign better be damn good. All right.
So long.
One quick super chat from Jacob Novik, who says my top 5 games who deserve remakes are Ratchet and Clank 1, Jack and Daxter Lost Frontier, and Rayman 1. Oh, and Sly Cooper. Rayman, love Rayman. Rayman does not get enough credit in the platforming space. Respect. Okay. Let's wrap it up here. To be respectful of your time. We did go a little bit long. I did cut out a couple sections, but we had some good conversations on the state of the console wars, which I was.
You knew inviting me was going to be a train wreck. Hey, you deserve it.
No, it wasn't a train wreck. It was beautiful. We shared some moments. We celebrated video games, and that's what this podcast is about. Damn it! I know it's Xbox Chaturdays. I know it's an Xbox focused show, but I make it a point to bring on people who prefer PlayStation, prefer other platforms, so we mix it up, get some different perspectives in here, because that's the beauty of it. I like a little, discussion. at the very least. So, Mark, appreciate you, man. Really appreciate you coming on, taking the time, spending your Saturday talking about video games with me and all the awesome people joining us. One more time for these lovely folks. If you want them to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
My Twitter is at Mark_Medina. That's the only social media I use. I mostly just like tweet out video game stuff. So that would be the one to follow.
That would be the one.
Also tweet out cat pictures.
I mean, we all love a good cat picture. We all love a good cat. Huge shout out to everyone who joins us live, who listens to the audio versions, who's become a channel member, who's bought some sick merch. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate you making this show fun each and every week. And with that being said, we are going to wrap it up. Have a beautiful weekend. Have a beautiful week. And we will catch you next Saturday. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.